and you couldn't hear any of that, so fuck me sideways. Hopefully you are having a great day on this April 28th, 2026, 16. Oh, could you fucking imagine? We've just traveled back in time. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? But no, alas, we are still trapped in the hell cycle. That is 2026. Should be good. We got a video today. First, the Alberta health scandal. Then, the surveillance began. But on top of that, the stream title today is Most People Are Bad with Money. Which is, I find there seems to be an oxymoron in society a little bit, that we all like to pretend that we're really good with money and we've got things sorted. At least that's the personas or the image that people like to project out into the world. But I think it's very clearly the opposite. I think whether you're rich or poor, most people are just horrible with money. They just are. I would, you know, I wonder if there's research around how little can we quantify how little respect for the dollar people have. No, I will say the one thing that AI is good for is being, it's almost in a lot of ways, unfortunately, fortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, it has become a way to, almost like a wiki type page for jumping off to learn things. Well, let's just give it a read. So, because I just typed into, you know, Gemini, Google, can we quantify how little respect for the dollar people have? Quantifying respect for a currency is a fascinating exercise because it forces us to look at the intersection of cold math and collective psychology. While respect is subjective, economists and market analysis track it through several data-driven proxies. Here's how we can quantify the decline in the dollar's perceived values and status. Purchasing power erosion. The most direct way to measure the lack of respect of the dollar value is inflation. I don't know if I'd agree with that one. But okay. If people respect the dollar's ability to hold value, they wouldn't be in such a hurry to exchange it for hard assets. Oh, okay. I see. So if they had more respect for what it could do in the future, they would probably hold on to it more than, like, I get the money and I gotta fucking spend it. I get the money and I gotta fucking spend it. I get the money and I gotta fucking spend it. Which would realistically, because that, I mean, that would be the argument for a lot of like social programs, right? Like if people could hold on to the money and not spend it on, you know, the basically the bad things that they're spending it on now, you know, those quick little dopamine fixes, the wants, and hold on to it for when they need it at a different time for their needs, it would probably actually be much more beneficial, and you'd probably see inflation slow down a lot. If people respected the dollar's ability to hold value, but I don't think, see, I think this is where ChatGPT, you guys are wrong. I don't think it's the understanding of it. I don't think it's so much that people see a lesser value in the dollar and that's why they're spending it. I think people are much more short-term than that. I don't think the average person going to like ordering $50 DoorDash is like, whoa, I better buy that $50 DoorDash today because I ain't gonna be able to buy that $50 DoorDash in, you know, 5 years or something like that. I'm also curious about this 96. What does it mean? You know, it'd be really cool to have, it'd be cool to have an AI that is just built off of, books written more than it is built off of like opinions and stuff online. I'd be curious to see the difference in how it answers questions. So I've never used this website before, but we'll give it a read. Equity, the slow erosion of the US dollar's real value. Despite the endless doom and gloom headlines, the US dollar isn't collapsing. It's evolving. This is from 2025. Hang on. Despite the endless doom and gloom headlines, the US dollar isn't collapsing, it's evolving. What many call debasement is largely the natural effect of inflation in a growing economy, not the destruction of value. While fiscal deficits, money printing, and inflation are really real challenges, global confidence in the dollar remains unshaken. It's still the backbone of global finance because no viable alternative exists. I'm a little out there in the way that I see money. I personally think that if we did away with a lot of the way that we deal with physical currency, I think we could get away with probably doing whatever the fuck we want with currency without any real crazy economic things. I think we just adapt, and things would, I think the real, like, I always like the Star Trek way of looking at it, that it's seen more as a way of keeping track, and there is no real value to the things changing, the money changing hands. Is just a way of kind of keeping track and knowing where things are going and what sectors are doing what, and more of an accounting, keeping track of things. But I think to get to something like that, it takes a very hard shift that is super uncomfortable and in many ways probably very destructive. But I think the other side of that chaos, I think, is a little bit more order, as the universe and things naturally tend to do. The US dollar's decline in purchasing power reflects inflation, not structural debasement. Global confidence in the dollar remains strong, with 60% of reserves still held in USD. Money supply growth has broadly tracked economic growth since 1959. The death of the dollar narrative thrives on fears and not fundamentals. For more than a century, the US dollar has been the cornerstone of the global financial system, trusted, traded, and sometimes despised. In the past few years, headlines warning of US dollar debasement or even imminent collapse have flooded financial media and social platforms alike. YouTube personalities brandish long-term charts showing the dollar's purchasing power plunging by 90%, while influencers preach gold and Bitcoin as a salvation for paper money. See, and this is what I mean by Gemini is really good. We can start, and we can start somewhere, right? We read this and we go, oh my god, it's lost 96. It's like, well, hang on, let's go read a little bit more. Let's go somewhere else. It's a seductive story. The Federal Reserve prints trillions, inflation roars, debt balloons, and the greenback supposedly dies. But beneath the hysteria lies a complex truth. The dollar has indeed eroded over time, but what's happening is less of a story of collapse and more of one of evolution. The dollar isn't dying, it's adapting to a world that keeps expanding, yet nations are slowly reducing their reliance on it, turning to gold as a reserve trust. Ooh, I'm going to, where's paint? I want to draw something, because maybe this will help. Maybe this will help explain it a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna need, hang on. We're gonna take 2 seconds. Paint scene. We're gonna put cap. Oh, application capture. Audio, no. Window capture, no. Add new, paint. Window to capture. Paint. Size. I guess it doesn't need to be perfect. Video capture device, add existing, me. You'll put me down in the corner there. Shaboom. So the way I like to see it, and the way that it makes sense to me, is let's say you got this big pile of cash. Okay, that's cash. Stacks of cash. If you don't know, okay, we'll throw fucking money. Let's say it's 1,000. Okay, and then let's say you have 10 people. Okay, so that translates into each of those 10 people having, what would that be, $100, right? Look at that, it's beautiful. It's drawn so well, so beautiful. I should hook up, my mom's got a little thing, I should hook it up so when I can draw, so I'm not doing it awkwardly. So let's say this population here, it goes up. Okay, and let's say our money supply hasn't changed. We still have $1,000 in our society. Okay, but now we've got 40 people. Okay, people be fucking, people be having kids. Okay, our stack of money, our beautiful stack of money is still the same. Okay, well shit, now that $1,000, if we're just doing basic math, now we're dividing it by 40. Actually, it should be like this. No, hang on, set it up right. Oh my god, how do we make these bigger? You know how long it's been since I've used paint? Crazy amount of time since I've used paint. Okay, so now that, no, that's not what I want. I want a pencil. Now, it's a skinny line, what the fuck? Now we're gonna divide that 1,000 by the 40, okay? And because I can't do that good of math in my head, now we have $25 per person, right? Obviously a quarter of what we had, and we could have done that if we, you know, we're smart enough to think ahead. Yeah, I do actually have a drawing tablet. My mom hasn't asked for it back. Well, now how are we going to get back to that $100 per person that we had? Well, we really only have one option. We've got to print more money. We've got to make more money from somewhere. We now have to have $4,000 worth of currency circulating in our economy to equal what we had before of that $100 per person. Now, in my understanding, is that can come in one of two ways. That can come in the form of outside investment, which is awesome, but that means probably that country is going to have to print money for us to invest in our country, which is fine. It might be beneficial for them, because in turn we might be able to generate more currency and invest in them. You know, very easily put, globalism. But at some point, we are going to have to print money for ourselves as our populations grow. I would actually argue, and I would be curious to know what kind of the research is around it. I wonder if we've printed enough money in general, in the forms of like actual currency that people can use. Because where I think a lot of our currency in the modern era is tied up isn't just in hard assets. Yeah, you see that? See that? Perfectly written. Hard assets. And I think a lot of the non-liquid capital that is floating around makes it seem like we have a lot more currency than we do, when in reality I think we're low on currency. Not in a low like, oh my god, it's a danger, we have no currency, just in the fact that a lot of our wealth, or a lot of our, you know, money is more tied up in speculative assets than it is in actual currency that can help the economy. And I think what's interesting is, I think wealth taxes, I think that's what they're trying, what a wealth tax tries to address, is some of those tied up assets, turning them, forcing the holder to turn it into a more liquid thing to basically pump back into the economy. That's obviously that's a very layman understanding of it, and it could be totally wrong, but it is totally how it comes. It's how I see it anyways. And welcome, Ice Beans. We're just talking money. Probably play games at some point here. Let me know if the music's too loud. It was nice having a little bit of background noise. It looks like it peaked at yellow at some point, but good stuff. Good tea. We're just talking about how the because I was curious, how do we quantify people's respect of the dollar? What does that look like? What is it? What kind of numbers and what can we use? And then we use Gemini. Oh, and in Gemini, it discusses basically that like 96% of the purchasing power has been eroded, and we were just going off to find other things because that just sounds my bullshit detectors go off when I hear stats in the 90% area. Like it is always it's alarm bells usually go off. So because it's just like, wow, 90, like that's like, it's not to say it doesn't happen, but that's a pretty extreme thing. 90%, that's a lot. Like 90% is a lot. You know, if you were to say your cup is 90% full, you'd say your cup is full, you know? So we were just reading an article on it and doing a research stream, you know, feeling a little nerdy today. I'm playing a lot of games. I feel like I need to get back to my mind a little bit. How is it now? Better? Less? More? I'm so angry. I played a horror game. Maybe we'll play it later. I played a horror game the other day and I was gonna make a video out of it, but the fucking game had a hum all the way through it, and I saw it on the audio, and I went, oh, it shouldn't be a problem. Adobe should pick it up, no problem, or Adobe should still be able to pick up my speech, no problem. It did not. So much so it like basically broke Adobe. I had to go back and I had to make sure that it wasn't the software. I recorded a different part of the game with the audio turned down, which sucks because it was so good. It was such a good horror game. But if you haven't checked out my chopped up video yet, please do. It was a blast. I might have to play it on stream at some point, but the currency debasement. So a historical lens, the real debasement. Currency debasement is hardly new. In the ancient world, rulers physically clipped silver coins or mixed them with base metals to fund wars. The value of money fell because the substance was literally diluted. The early United States was designed to avoid that fate. The Constitution tied money to gold and silver, constraining governments for the arbitrary expansion. Ooh, sorry, before I forget, because I actually want to talk about this because I've thought about this a few times now. Where is the painting scene? So something I have thought about for a while is, what if we mixed a gold and modern monetary fund together? What would that world look like? So let's say, maybe I can just explain it. Maybe I don't even have to paint it. So in my mind, we would seek something that is of a value that we could produce and potentially either hold on to or sell off to offset the need to print. So let's say we have a budget and we need $1 million. Okay. Now we could just print it. We could just hit, send it to the printer. Okay. No problem. Or we could tell our mining companies, could be government run, could be private. Hey, we need you to mine an extra $850,000 of gold to make up part of the shortfall, and then we are going to print the rest of it for this year, but next year we're gonna need to ramp it up one more time to cover what we're printing, plus probably the next kind of budget thing as we go. It would be in a way we would be seeking, because I think this is where Canada actually could have, because we do have really big gold mines, but the thing is we mine a fuck ton of gold and then we just sell it off, which is cool. That's based. You know, we don't really hold on to it, but I'd be curious to see if there's examples of countries doing this and what their economic output looks like. Because I think there's nothing wrong with, like, you know, hitting send on the money printer, as long as there's obviously a plan at some point to back it up with something, or quote unquote keep it in check and pay it down. Because the thing is too, is governmental debt doesn't work the same as household debt, from my understanding. Two vastly different things. So it's just it's an idea I've mulled around for a little bit. I'd just be curious to read on it more, kind of learn what it would look like. But anyways, the area of the United States was designed to avoid that fate. Constitution tied money to gold and silver, constraining governments from arbitrary expansion. For nearly 150 years, the dollar's value was anchored to metal, first under the classic gold standard, then under the Bretton Woods system after World War II. That discipline ended in 1971 when President Richard Nixon closed the gold window, severing the dollar's last formal link to gold. The modern fiat era was born. Since then, the dollar's purchasing power has undeniably declined. According to long-term data, the dollar has lost roughly 96% of its value since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, but that loss is not unique. It's a natural outcome of the fiat system, in which the supply of money grows with the size of the economy. So basically, you're printing to match. Yeah, you're printing to match your currency needs, not the other way around. You're printing to meet your economical needs. You're not economicaling to meet your money needs. The 90% chart that sells fear. One of the most recycled visuals in the finance circles is the purchasing power of the US dollar chart. It shows a sharp century-long decline, as often wielded as proof of catastrophic debasement. The image is powerful, but misleading. What it shows is inflation, not debasement. Inflation is a function of rising demand, population growth, productivity, and the expansion of credit in an economy that's far larger and more complex than it was a century ago. Prices rise because the economy expands. Goods, services, and incomes multiply. In other words, it's not the dollar that's been structurally ruined, it's the denominator of the economy that has grown immensely. Inflation versus debasement, two different creatures. Inflation is the rise in prices when demand outpaces supplies. Debasement, by contrast, refers to a deliberate structural weakening of a currency, like removing silver from coins or breaking a hard backing link. Rome debased its currency by reducing the silver content of the denarius. The United States ended the gold convertibly in 1971. That was a genuine debasement, a fundamental change in the structure of money. But since then, within the fiat framework, printing money does not dilute a metallic base, nor does it exist. The structure no longer depends on gold or silver, but on confidence, predictive capacity, and the government's creditworthiness. So in an essence, this is kind of what's happened. What I just described with my paint and tying it to something, we've now just tied it to economic output. See? Clearly readable. Look at that. Economic output. That's what that is. We need to set up. We need to see economic output. Clearly legible. We definitely need to set up the pen and stuff for this kind of stream. Prices rise over time because demand increases due to population growth, rising incomes, and growing consumption. This is especially true in a post-industrial, service-driven economy that incentivizes credit expansion and capital investment. Now, I will say I would say there is an argument to be made that the easier we make credit available to people, and this is true because we see this with Federal Reserve rates, the easier it is for inflation to get out of hand. So if you are truly somebody that hates the printing of new money, you should hate fucking Klarna. You should hate the buy now, pay later bullshit. You should hate credit cards. You should hate most loans that people take out today because they're horrible. They're absolutely fucking horrible. I just saw on a video today or the other day, 144-month car loan on a luxury vehicle. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm curious What is the longest car rate you can get in Canada right now? I bet you 96 months. I bet you. Oof, look at that. 96 months on the dot. 96 months. 96 months. That's unreal. Unreal. Oh. Chat, we're going to do some math. We're going to do some math right now, okay? We're going to go, we'll use TD, auto loan, calculator. Let's go to the auto loan calculator. What is it? Let's take the average price new vehicle. Canada. I need a pen. I need a paper. I need a paper. Oh. I just had a little bit of an anxiety attack there, chat. That can't be right. No way. Oh. Chat, you're never going to be able to afford a new car. Chat, the average, as of late 2025, early 26, the average price of a new car in Canada is approximately $63,000. Holy hell, $63K for a goddamn new car. That's bonkers. That's bonkers. That's bonkers. Okay, let's take the average. Let's work with the average. Let's work with averages. Averages are fun. Okay. Anybody want to guess what the average going interest rate is? My guess, 5.2%. Oh, I'm scared. I'm way off. I'm way off. That's even worse. I'm way off. As of early 2026, the average car loan interest rate is 6.5. Oh. Based on what? Oh. 6.5? Oh. Guys, what are we doing? 6.5%? Guys. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, so that would make our loan, if we were to take that 63,000 at 84 months, that's the max we can go on TD. TD is allowing us to go 84 months. That is $935.51 a month. Whew. Whew. That's outrageous. But that's just the monthly cost. What is our total spent now? Because that's a big question. Congrats. You're paying $935. Sorry. Don't mean to shortchange it. Times 84 months. That car that was $63K is now costing you $78,582.84. Meaning, from the original purchase price of $63,000, we are going to lose, just in interest, this isn't in depreciating value or anything of that nature, $15,582.84 is what we're losing in just interest. Just interest. You've just paid almost a quarter of somebody's salary on that one car loan alone for the year. Because what would that be? Times 4 if you were to... 62,000. That's crazy. Now let's say you're a real go-getter and you're going to pay it off in 5 years. Okay, because you're a real go-getter. You got the cash, you're feeling good. 60 months. Because realistically, you probably shouldn't have a loan longer than 5 years on your car. You know, by the time you factor in depreciation, shit falling apart on the modern car, wanting, you know, that habit of wanting to change cars every couple of years, that's going to cost you $1,232.67 a month. And I'm curious, if we were to take that 12 and times it by 60, what is our final payment at the end of that? I enjoy crunching numbers like this sometimes. We're gonna do 60 months because that's 5 years. 73, 960, 20. So we would save ourselves about 4,400 would be roughly what we would save ourselves. Honestly, not as much as I would think. Yeah, $4,622.64 if we chose to pay it off in five years instead of, what is that? That is 84 months. What is that? 7 years? So 2 years saves you $4,000. It's quite a bit. That's crazy. 6.5. Oh, do we know what's the average median credit score? Canada. Oh, this is gonna depress me. I can really see it. Oh, you know what? It was better than I thought it would be. So the average, seems like the average credit score, and once again, this is cursory glances, so take it with it as you see. Okay. But it would seem that the average is about 672 to 760. It's pretty good. Not great. I mean, it'd be, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Obviously, the older people having the better credit, because my guess is that they've probably paid off significant chunks of their credit, and now it's more of a maintainer status than it is like something that they're actively engaging with. Average by province. Ooh, Alberta's down there. It's all our big trucks. We're financing them all. Okay, sorry. Super long fucking tangent. As we often say, it's not the US dollar losing value, it's the economy expanding. That's why the term debasement today functions more as a psychological metaphor than a mechanical one. It signals fear and confidence in fiat money will erode, but confidence, not silver content, is what underpins modern currencies. The pandemic shock and the M2 mirage. Critics point to the explosion of money supply during the 2020 and 2021 as proof that the dollar is being destroyed. It's true that the M2, the broad measure of money, soared by more than $6 trillion during the pandemic. But context matters. The US was facing the most severe economic collapse since the Great Depression. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury stepped in aggressively to prevent systematic failure, and the intervention worked. It's almost, you think about it like a health thing. It's almost like you're on the risk of a heart attack because your arteries are clogged, and your doctor steps in and unclogs your arteries and puts a stent in your heart, and you're like, no, it is the stent that led to my heart attack and my health issues. And it's like, sure, if that's the way you want to look at it, dum-dum, but no. The surge in liquidity pushed demand higher than supply, triggering a wave of inflation that peaked above 9%. But the same surge also produced record low unemployment and one of the fastest post-recession recoveries in modern history. Crucially, over the long run, the growth of the M2 has tracked closely with the GDP. Since 1959, money supply growth and economic output have remained broadly aligned. Even after the pandemic spike, the M2, as a percentage of GDP, has been falling, not rising. That's hardly the picture of currency being structurally debased. Global confidence still anchors the dollar. If the dollar were truly being debased, global capital would flee, treasury demand would collapse, foreign reserves would diversify rapidly into currencies. None of that would be happening. Now, there was a time in the US in the last, was a year or so, where there was a little bit of a collapse with treasuries being wanted, and that, according to this article, would actually be an example of debasement. The US dollar still accounts for roughly 60% of the global reserves and about 80% of the global trade settlements. Central banks continue to hold treasuries as their safety asset. Even countries publicly calling for de-dollarization continue to store up their surplus in US assets. Would be curious to hear arguments for and against the idea of a global currency. Not one tied to a specific country, but a currency devoid of all other countries, what that would even look like. Might be an answer worth kind of researching and looking into. The dollar index, the DXY, remains historically strong despite cyclical swings. Its resilience reflects deep liquidity, the rule of law, transparent capital markets, the military and economic dominance, unmatched by any rival. Okay, glug glug, the US dick. Calm down. US dollar index remains strong. Most notably, the big picture reveals more resilient and global dominance currency than alarmists will admit. The US dollar is still the center of 80% of global transactions and nearly 60% of all global reserves. The debasement argument is that premature and at worst, deeply misleading. Japan in the 1980s, the euros in the 2000s, and the yuan today have been hailed as potential replacements. None have come close to replicating the dollar's reach. I mean, realistically, if you are going to pick a country, you would want a country that checks like certain boxes, like are they an economic powerhouse? Yes. Okay. Do they have a strong military to make sure that like that economic system keeps going? Yes. Are their government leaders sound? Yes. Like are is the capacity for innovation high? Yes. Right. Like once you check all these boxes, but the problem now, and this article is a year old, it'd be kind of curious to hear whoever wrote this article maybe kind of speak on what is happening now, because if we look at the US, we see like there is now quite a bit of political instability. Well, shit, now there is like economic worsenings because people aren't like the governmental leaders aren't doing the things they're supposed to be doing, which is like it's one of those things that if you really want to think about it, it's almost like a it's like a circle, it's like a pyramid. Okay, it's like a pyramid, and in this pyramid, it's like the Haslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the I could speculate on what would be at each level, but my guess is number one is political stability, followed by economic stability, followed by I would say innovation, followed by healthy consumer habits. I think healthy consumer habits were going to be at the top. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'd switch consumers and innovation on the pyramid, because innovation is important, but I think your consumers being in a healthy place to consume and kind of push and mold the economy and do things, because really when we speak of consumption, where it's a little bit of, once again, all my understanding, because I'm just a layman, but I'm hoping that it helps laymen's understand. When we say consumer, I don't mean literally like somebody is going out to consume things. What I would say is when we use that word, we are talking about people that are functioning inside of the economy that allows goods and services to flow from them doing a job and then partaking in other parts of the economy. They are kind of flowing in and out and around, kind of like a river. It's all rivers in this sense. So I'd go political stability, economic stability, consumer, and then innovation at the top to kind of keep moving your economy forward. If we're only going with four things, obviously probably this pyramid would be, well, actually, how many things does Maslow's have? It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fuck, we're fucked. It has 5. We're done. We're done. Back it up. Back it up. Well, ours has 4 now. So, fuck you, Maslow. We'll do what we want. The narrative of the dollar death thrives because fear sells. Are you guys sold on fear yet? Have I scared you? It's easier to gain clicks by forecasting collapse than explaining equilibrium. Human psychology magnifies threats more than opportunities, a trait financial media understands all too well. Yet for investors, the real issue isn't debasement, it's inflation. Over the decades, inflation steadily erodes purchasing power, not through destructive, but through progress. A suit that cost $35 in 1990 costs about $2,000 today. Not because the money has been destroyed, but because productivity, wages, and living standards have multiplied. Still, inflation matters. It means that cash loses value over time, savers must seek assets, equities, property, or even gold that grows faster than the inflation rate. Gold remains a hedge, but equities, over the long run, have vastly outperformed as a store of value in real terms. I will say that there is a little bit of frustration as somebody who does try to save money that banks don't offer accounts that have better savings rates, because if that money is going to sit there anyways, and in a sense in the back they're going to use that money to lend out and gain money on, gain interest in things on the investments on the money that's going out, it would be nice to see simple investments that are simple accounts where money can just sit there and you gain. Because even in the high yield ones are bullshit. I mean, they're giving you, we're talking a couple of dollars in the grand scheme of things. But I understand there's things you can do. You can buy bonds and stocks and cashables and equities and things like that that make it easy to come out. But it's when we talk finances and we talk that stuff for the average person, unfortunately, their brain is potatoes. When we start talking about money and how to invest and what to do with it and when to pull it out and what are we talking taxes and things like that. Like it would be nice if there was an easier way for people to do that. So maybe one day. The long arc. From silver coins to digital payments, the dollar story is one of transformation, not terminal decline. Genuine debasement, the removal of precious metal content, eroded decades ago. Oh my god, was this written by ChatGPT? I didn't even realize so many of the dashes. Probably. What remains is a challenge of balancing money creation with real economic growth, managing fiscal discipline, managing confidence in U.S. institutions. Yes, inflation eats away the purchasing power, and yes, deficits and potential political dysfunction poses risks, but the U.S. dollar is not collapsing, it's adapting. The real debate isn't whether the dollar will vanish, it's how the U.S. manages its privilege and responsibility, an issuer of the world's reserve currency in a time of shifting geopolitics and technological change. In a sense, the death of the dollar remains a myth. Yet, the more interesting story, the one investors should watch, is how the dollar continues to evolve amid a new global order defined by debt, data, and digital money. Money. Well, that was just one article. Let's go find another one. Well, this one's from the Bank of Canada. When was it written? Doesn't... 2010? Yeah, a lot of it would probably still be... Yeah, let's give it a read. It's from the Bank of Canada. We'll trust it. We're nerds. We trust the system at times. Appendix A, purchasing power of the Canadian dollar. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. Even with a low annual inflation rate of 2%, the midpoint of Bank of Canada's 1 to 3% target range of inflation since 1995, the dollar will lose half of its purchasing power in approximately 35 years. When the Consumer Price Index, CPI, is used to measure inflation, the average annual rate of inflation in Canada since 1914 is 3.2%. Thus, the Canadian dollar lost more than 94% of its value between 1914 and 2005. Alternatively, $1 in 1914 would have the purchasing power of $17.75 in 2020 or $2005. While consumer price data prior to 1914 is unavailable, a broader measure of inflation, the gross domestic product deflator, is available back to 1870. While the CPI and GDP deflator can divulge, they tend to move together over time. Since 1870, the annual GDP inflation averaging 3.6%, the Canadian dollar has lost more than 96% of its value. Again, this is equivalent to saying $1 Canadian dollar in 1870 would have the purchasing power of roughly $26.70 in today's money. Periods of high inflation include the early years of the 20th century, when major infrastructure projects in Canada were financed by large inflows of foreign capital, and the years during and immediately following the two world wars, owing to the cost of the war effort and demobilization. More recently, high inflation was experienced during the 1970s and 80s, owing to oil crisis and policy errors. So there's an interesting that I found, just reading this part of the article here. The periods of high inflation include in the early years of the 20th century, when major infrastructures in Canada were financed by large inflows of foreign capital. That, and that's we can have that. That's an interesting one onto itself, is that, inflationary pressures isn't just printing money, because, we could make, like, I'm sure everybody's seen it. South Park does a really funny episode in which I think it's Kyle ends up being like money Jesus. He takes out a credit card. Okay. And he's like, lo and behold to you, it is the black credit card. And I will carry the sins of my brothers, and I will carry their debt. What the solution I'm proposing is we make a second Canada. Okay. Second Kakistan. Okay. And what we get Kakistan to do is we just get them to print $4 trillion. Okay. It's a lot of zeros. And we just hit 1 million. Then we just hit 1 billion. There, we're at 1 trillion. Okay. A lot of zeros. Okay. Kakistan is going to print $4 trillion. Okay. They're going to give us that money. Okay. It's going to be a 1-to-1 conversion, because that's just how money works. Okay. And we're going to take that money and we're going to pay off all the debt in Canada. And then we're going to take that money and reinvest it into the economy. Okay. So now debt's gone. Okay. No more debt, because we've gotten so much money from Kakistan, Kanakistan, okay, to pay off our debt and everything, and we got money left over. We got some pocket change to reinvest in the economy, and then what we're gonna do is Kanakistan's not going to exist anymore. It's just going to disappear. Okay, we're gonna make it a little island off the coast of Nova Scotia. Okay, and then it's going to dissolve. It's going to collapse. The 4 penguins that live there, we're gonna charge them with being the political leaders that collapse that system, and we're just gonna be out of debt, and all the money's gonna be, it's gonna be fine. We'll have a little bit of an inflationary period, but it'll go down because the debt's paid off. It's a sound theory. It's a sound theory. But it is interesting that we always, at least the conversations I hear, are always in the realm of, well, inflation's going up. Inflation is bad because we're printing money. But we never talk about how, just in general, as we exist, and as these two articles have talked about, as economies grow and as populations grow, inflation is always going to be a thing that you have to tackle. Because, back to our previous paint, our previous paint thing where, if we have 100 people, if we have $1,000 and there's 10 people, now it's $100 per person. But if you have, 40 people and it's still $1,000, well, now it's $25 per person, right? Like this is I understand that a lot of these conversations don't get to the level of really understanding, and usually the people talking about them are just full of shit, and, especially the anarcho-capitalists. Okay. Looking at you, Fabian Liberty. But it often feels like sometimes people like to offer, and there's some psychology about it, behind it, offering simple solutions to complex problems, right? Sometimes it's true. Okay. Oh, you're sore, you're not feeling well, and you're constantly tired. Well, that's a pretty complex problem. There's a lot of things that could be going wrong there, right? But the first solution we would give is, well, you need to drink more water, which for most of us is probably true. You should probably move a little bit. And you should probably just eat healthier. Just those 3 things. Simple solutions, right? Quote unquote simple solutions, right? They're simple solutions to a very complex problem, and at times that'll work. You can propose really simple solutions like that, and it'll work, and you'll move forward, and it'll all be okay. But that works more on a singular kind of individualistic sort of level, But what ends up happening is when you move up a couple levels, and you have a system with more than one or two actors that are engaging with it, well, now the simple solution actually is probably the hardest, right? Oh, we'll just stop printing money. Oh, sweet. How are you dealing with all the economic fucking... Because realistically, tomorrow, if we just all decided, you know what? No country is printing money anymore, shit would collapse. We'd be absolutely fucked. Because we have systems and we have things in place going on in our countries that we need to fund. And they might be loss leaders. Like healthcare is probably going to be is always going to be a net loss in healthcare. That's okay. I'm okay with that. I don't care if our healthcare system makes money. Having a system to get packages around Canada Post, it's probably going to be a loss leader. That's okay. I'm okay with that. You know, a system that allows a package to get anywhere in the fucking country doesn't make money. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it if it loses money every year. That's okay. Public schools. I'm personally okay if that one, definitely if that one loses money every year, because it's not, the thing is it's not a direct return on investment when you're pumping money into these social programs and things of this nature. It is you're investing now with the understanding that somewhere down the line there is going to be a payoff for that thing. You know, it's probably good that we have kids that can read and can do numbers and, you know, aren't literally on their fucking tablets and video games all day. That's probably a good thing. You know, having a place that they can go and they can socialize and meet new friends and learn new skills and things and having, you know, spaces away. Because honest to God, some of it too, school's a really good way to get kids away from their parents so that they can start to develop personality and skills of their own. Because, you know, I hate hearing the argument. I love the idea of teaching kids comm class. I think I might do it in the future. Go back, get my bachelor's and go teach some comm classes for like budgeting and life skills and things like that. I love it. I love the idea of having a class for students like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we're being realistic, that's a failure of the fucking parents. That's a failure of the fucking parents. That's a failure of your mom and dad that you don't know how to do taxes. It's a failure of your mom and dad that you don't know what a car loan is. And if your parents don't know how to do it, it's a failure of their parents. And if their parents don't know how to do it, it's a failure of their parents. And you can, at some point, somebody has to break the cycle, right? If you recognize this, at some point, somebody in the cycle needs to put in the work to change and correct that. But the idea that, well, they didn't teach me that in school, so I don't know how to do it. Well, I'm sorry, motherfucker. That only extends so far nowadays. We have tons of tools for that shit. You need to go out there and get your own kind of understanding of shit and move forward yourself. I don't remember where I was going with it, but yeah, I hate hearing that. Well, they didn't teach me that in school. Well, sorry. Other places you can learn shit too. In contrast, prices fell during the early 1920s when Canada experienced deflation on a return to the gold standard, and during the Great Depression of the 1930s, prices also fell episodically during the last decades of the 19th century. To provide a different perspective on the purchasing power of the Canadian dollar, table A1, let's see, okay, A1, lists indicative prices of selected food staples since the 1900s. As you can see, the cost of a pound of butter has risen from about 25 cents at the beginning of the 20th century to $4 today. Well, that's not A1. Oh, that's not. Oh, right here. Well, that's chart A1. And what says, oh, table A1. Okay, we just can't read. At the same time, a laborer in 1901 would have earned 14 to 15 cents an hour in Halifax or Montreal and 23 cents in Toronto. In contrast, in 2005, the minimum wage in Canada ranged from $6.30 an hour in New Brunswick to $8 an hour for British Columbia. So let's see here. So if we look, so I guess the question would be, do they do a, well, let's do it. We could do an hour. So if somebody in 1901 was earning 14 cents an hour, it would take them 1 hour to buy a thing of strip loin, a pound of strip loin. It would take them 1 hour to buy a pound of strip loin. But if we, oh, the fucking question would be, do they contrast it? I don't like that they did that. I don't like that they did that. Halifax, New Brunswick. Is that close enough? Could we do that? $8? Well, then it would take them less than an hour to buy a pound of sirloin in 2005, making that $8 minimum wage. A loaf of bread, it looks like 4 cents. So it'd be 14 cents an hour. 4 divided by 14, be a quarter of your wage. Times 60, so 15 minutes. So it'd take you 15 minutes to buy a loaf of bread. $1.79 divided by 8, that'd be 0.22 times 60 minutes. It'd take you 13 minutes to buy a loaf of bread. 2005. So if anything, and that's the weird thing. I love numbers. I'm such a nerd. There's a guy on YouTube, he does shorts. He goes in, he's like, let me fucking explain the math. And he goes really fast. And he's like, and if you take the square of the root of the 12, and then he like shows it all the math. It makes me wet in the panties. It does every time. It's so amazing. So if anything, if we're just crunching, loose math, it actually takes less time. And it took less time in 2005 to buy the same things that you could in 1900. So it's interesting. In 1905, the average production worker in a factory earned $3.75 per year. Hell yeah. I'm always here. Here's the thing. I think it's good to recognize that you do have to do a little bit of work for yourself, but that doesn't mean people can't help you do boots. Can't give you a pair of boots. Because the thing is, if you're gonna pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you need boots. So, hey, learn to do your tech. Well, I mean, realistically, the ChatGPT should exist nowadays. It's not as hard as fuck. I have done all my own editing for all my videos on Adobe Premiere, and it has never been easier to learn about that program than it is right now, when all you have to do is throw your question into Google and you are racked with fucking videos, how-tos. AI will help you. For the last, how long have I had my computer now? 5 fucking years, 6 years. I have not used my graphics card correctly because I didn't know how to set it. I had no idea what any of the fucking settings did. I didn't take the time, because anytime I would delve into what the settings do and how to work with them, my brain became a potato. Absolutely became a potato. But you know what I did one day? I was like, you know what? This is fucking stupid. I'm playing Pal World. I know I have a decent graphics card. Why is it running like shit? I'm gonna go into Gemini, give the base stats about my computer, and get it to tell me what settings I need to turn on and off to get that shit running properly. And boy howdy, if it doesn't run like a fucking dream. Now, like, it's smooth, it's clear, it's so nice to play. Like, I can have shit on maximum settings without all the tearing and the fucking weird shit going on. Crazy difference. So, and I hear it, and I've talked about this, I hear it in your Discord chat, and I know what's happening in other ones, is people will speculate, and then they'll be like, well, at the end of the day, we just don't know. And at no point does anybody think to stop and just ask Google a question. And it drives me up the fucking wall. Drives me up the fucking wall. So, yeah, you know what? To some degree, there's some goddamn personal accountability, okay? That's why I'm fucking... Listen here, okay? I'm the conservative, and what I say goes, okay? Sorry, they were making $375 per year, while the average supervisory and office employee earned $846. God damn, rolling in the cash. In 2004, the average income of a person working in a manufacturing sector was $42,713. The average manager salary was $70,470. A significant portion of the increase in salaries since the early 1900s would reflect the impact of inflation. Other currencies also lost domestic purchasing power over time owing to inflation. In chart A3, one can see that while Canada's cumulative inflationary performance has been significantly better than that of the United Kingdom over the period since 1914, our performance has largely the same as that of the United States. Only in the last 10 years or so has Canada averaged a lower rate of inflation than the United States. Yeah, let's go 2005 Canada. We used to be a country. In terms of gold, the Canadian dollar has depreciated markedly over the years, much of this occurring since the 1970s. 1 ounce of gold was worth $20.67 in 1854. When the Currency Act was passed, the province of Canada, fixing the Canadian dollar at par with the US dollar equivalent of 23.22 grams of gold in 1933. The statutory price of gold in Canada, the same, $20.67 per ounce. The official US dollar price of gold was raised to $35 per ounce, roughly the same in Canadian dollars, on January 1st, 1934, when President Roosevelt's administration took steps to reflate the U.S. economy during the Great Depression. The U.S. $35 per ounce price remained fixed until August 1971 when President Nixon broke the chain. It's still roughly $550 in Canadian funds, or about $465. Whoa! Oh, and late October, $550. Jeez, what's gold worth now? You want to talk about inflationary pressure? Holy fuck! What's the price of gold right now? Oh. Woo! That's a fucking jump. You want to talk about a jump. So 2005, think of this, 2005. Gold. Where was it? We just saw it. In late October 2005, the market price for a gold ounce stood at $465. Oh, it's not gonna get it. $465, and it is currently at $4,584. That means gold. What is that? 1,000 time difference? Yeah, it's a magnitude of 1,000, right? No, 100. Yeah, 100. That's 100 times greater. 1,000 would be 40,000. So it's at 100. That's crazy. It's gone up. Look at this. Oh, that's consumer price index. And what is that measured in? That's a retail price index. It doesn't have things on the side, so I don't know what that's trying to tell us. In other words, the Canadian dollar has lost about 96% of its value in terms of gold since 1933, with much of this occurring since roughly 1971, while the US dollar has lost roughly 95% of its value. Periods of rapid inflation, as well as episodes of significant deflation in Canada over the past century or more, underscore the importance of the Bank of Canada's objective of maintaining low and stable and predictable inflation. If an economy is to perform well, its citizens must have confidence that the value of the money that they use is broadly stable. That is to say, subject to neither chronic inflation or deflation. Both inflation and deflation create uncertainty about the future and can have a significant negative impact on the economy. Their effects also do not fall equally on population. Unexpected inflation or deflation redistributes income and wealth between borrowers and lenders and between generations. Consequently, to avoid the burden that inflation or deflation imposes on the economy, it is important for a central bank to pursue monetary policy that is firmly focused on achieving and maintaining price stability. That was cool. That was kind of interesting read. It is interesting to see that the U.S., like, people talk about, like, oh, look at that fucking Canadian dollars. It's curious to see. I would love to see, like, 2020, like, something a little bit more recent around this, because it'd be interesting to see if we've maintained that, 1% off. That stuff. I'm not really seeing any other good articles. I'm seeing some of the fear articles from, you got like JP Morgan, CBS News, more fear. Like, it's hard to get good information when all your shit is just fear-based. Okay, so what have we understood? What have we learned? What have we learned from our quick tangent? Okay, the 96% of purchasing power it's relevant. It's probably correct, if not off by a percentage. Well, I guess it depends. It's probably doing it for Canadian dollars, which would be spot on. However, context matters, right? This is very contextual in how we want to look at that number. So, and we learned it's more from a change in fiat currency and the way that the economy and the populations are growing more so than it is and inflation and things like that, than it is an actual like destruction of the currency. So if you are listening to somebody who is pushing the idea that that 96% number represents a debasement of some sorts or a weakening of the currency, they're probably somebody who maybe isn't as informed as they should be. So give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. I just don't want you guys to see my ass. Okay, that's for my OnlyFans later. Just want to turn on this other light. Oh, poor Bubbers. He's dead in the corner. He went to the pupper park and now he's tired. And he's only half laying on his bed because he's a goofball. Okay, the sentiment. So this is the purchasing power erosion. So once again, this is I don't know if I would put purchasing power erosion with quantifying respect for the dollar. I don't think these two line up. I think Gemini is a little wrong in this response. So the sentiment: when people expect the dollar to fail them, they move into inflationary hedges, gold, real estate, Bitcoin. The surge in these assets classes is essentially a short on the dollar's future. Yeah, I don't know about that one either. I think you might have some people where they're going to go toss it in, and there is some like, oh, shit's failing currency. Let's not, we can't buy treasuries. We need to buy gold. But yeah, I don't know, because people are always going to drop their money into asset classes. Now, I think there could be an argument that I would make the argument that people, it's not so much when they expect the dollar to fail, it's when they expect the inflationary pressures to outpace the other returns they're going to get on that money. So they might, for in fact, maybe, let's say somebody has $10,000 to spend. Okay, now they could leave it in a savings account, which in a way is spending the money. You could buy gold with it, or you could go buy $10,000 worth of DoorDash, right? My guess is if you are somebody who is concerned with inflationary practices and things going crazy, you're not just going to leave it sitting in a savings account, right? Because you recognize that it's just going to lose purchasing power as it sits in there. And you're probably also not going to do the DoorDash if you're somebody with any level of financial literacy. My guess is what you're going to do is you're going to look for those hard assets, right? And you're going to want hard assets that you know are long-term. But once again, I don't think that's necessarily a respect for the dollar thing, as much as it is you're worried about the effects of inflation on your money. So I wouldn't really call that quantifying respect for the dollar. The de-dollarization on the global stage. On a macro level, respect is measured on how many central banks. See, it's not really... Yeah, it's not really getting to what I mean when I mean respect for the dollar. The way that I see respect for the dollar, and maybe I'm a little esoteric, maybe I'm a little wrong in the way that I view this, but the way I view it is respect for the dollar means that, let's say you have to, let's go back to our paint. Let's go back to our paint. 1 second. Go back here. Go back to the paint scene. Start a new one. Don't save. Okay. Let's say you have, you know what? No, give me 2 seconds. I am going to set up. Give me 2 seconds. I'll keep chatting while I'm doing it, but I just don't want you to see my belly. You know what? I don't even know if this thing works with paint. Board. One. Question. Is that one long enough? Not long enough, courage, you hooer. This might be the... Yeah, there we go. Like, I knew I wrapped it up somewhere where I wouldn't lose it. It'll just make it all easier. Light. Static ball lights. Plasma ball. Touch them and touch your finger. Little pipe cleaners instead of... Teach me not to be so... even thinking about it. I wasn't even planning on writing stuff. There we go. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. There we are. There we are. Although I need to move chat. There. Okay. We're all set up. We're all better now. We're all better. Okay. So to me, and I actually remember what I wanted to talk about. So yay me. When I talk about respect of the dollar, what I mean is, let's say somebody has $100 spend. Okay. 100. I've never used this before on here. Okay. They have $100 to spend on something. Set this up at some. Now they could either choose to spend it on DoorDash, or they could use it to spend on their credit card that they've it is a Wacom. So I've literally never used this one before. So oh, don't pull that. Okay, so let's say somebody oh, stop it. Why? Where is it now? Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. So let's say somebody has $100 to spend on whatever, okay? And what they can do is they can either spend it on DoorDash, or they can spend it on their credit card, paying off debt they've already occurred at another point in life. I would say that the person that picks the DoorDash has no respect for the dollar, or at least has a limited respect for the dollar, because what they should be doing is they should be freeing up money on their credit card, dealing with debts they've already racked up in the pursuit of actually opening up more purchasing power, more PP. They should be trying to open up more PP because they've already spent on this credit card a large amount of future PP. Okay. Fupa PP. So what this $100 should be trying to do is pay down the purchasing power they've already done on the credit card. And what we are seeing in society instead is people constantly picking the DoorDash, it could be Steam games, right? It could be Steam games, just stops. Okay. Steam games. It could be a coffee, a Timmy's. Okay. It could be literally whatever luxury purchase that they do. That is, especially on a credit card, when you're doing those purchases, it is contributing more and more to this going up. Okay, this is, oh my lord, this is, I think it's because my hand is on it. This is continuing to go up. Okay, and the more that they do that, the more that they reduce their purchasing power by not doing that, it's making it worse for themselves over time. So that is what I mean when I say respect for the dollar, because realistically, somebody with that $100, if they took it and put it towards their credit card, I am judging you. You know, here's the thing. I actually not judging your farmer's wrap. I actually want people to purchase more farmers reps. I'm actually all for people spending money. I really am. But the problem starts to exist is when your credit card purchases become so large that you can't maintain them. Oh, it's just as fucking bad. I'll have to play with this later. Because I'm sure there's a way to get it more. Oh, there we go. Oh, more poignant. Ah, we can just handwrite it. Today. Just okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. So there's mode off. When they're putting that $100, holy fuck, it's just bad. It's just bad everywhere. When you're eroding your purchasing power by not dealing with your past debts and instead buying luxury goods with it, all you're doing is you're putting yourself in a worse financial space over and over again. And you're going to feel the effects of that inflationary practice more because your minimum monthly payments keep going up and the amount that needs to get siphoned off from your income to purchase things in the future is just getting worse. So what I would say is I think we are racked with a society, both quite frankly rich and poor, you know, irrespective of your income, where people are doing just that. They're doing things like this. Oh, I do have setup. There, let's fuck with this. Nice beans. Your pen functions, mapping. Can we map? Yeah, that's pen. One area full. Use Windows Ink. Oh, I just want it as a pen. Forced proportions. How do we? Oh. Oh, hang on. No, I want the tablet area full. There we go. That might be better. So what I would ideally like to see is let's say once again you have that $100 to spend. I would like to see people who at least are paying minimums. Why can't I do little dots? Why? You were just working. Minimums on their credit card. And are saving at least something. Why are you doing that? Saving. And then when there is money left over, do the luxury things. Because I think it's important to hit all three. I think you have to deal with your past debt. You just have to. You have to deal with it. It has to at some point you have to deal with it, and you can't just keep racking up minimum monthly payments over and over and over again in the form of the, you know, the pays and fours and things like that. And then at some point you need to recognize that you will need money for needs in the future. And then when that's done, you can spend things on luxury items, right? But the problem is right now it's inverse. Right now we have populations that are spending their first part of their paychecks on luxuries. The what would be the savings area has become your minimum monthly payments, and then at the very end, if there's anything left over, which there usually isn't, is the savings, and it's just backwards. And I would say that the lack of respect for what the dollar can achieve and what the dollar can do in your life is leading a lot of people to, you know, pick the luxury items first. Now I understand, once again, it's not as simple as that. There's obviously there's things that go into people's mindsets that you know, those quick fixes, you know, it becomes escapism, retail therapy, things of that nature. Paint, don't I? Don't I paint open? No. Maybe if I pick an application. Paint. It's like getting the smart board. There we go. There we go. That's a little. Now watch. I'm gonna go to show you, and it's not gonna work. Ready? 100. There. That's a lot better. There we go. That's a lot better. Now we're all set up. Okay. Yeah. I would just. And I understand. Like the thing is too is like not everybody. You know, not everybody all at once can start doing these things. You know, not everybody at once can all of a sudden, you know what, today I'm just not buying DoorDash. There are still, because like obviously the economic crash, the economic system we built for ourselves requires people to consume. But I often take issue with the fact that people will be like, well, I'm not bad with money. 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 It's just my money supply. It's the amount of money I make. It's just, I'm not bad with money. I'm not bad with money. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. It's at some point somewhere, somebody must be bad with money, because things money-wise are shit. People don't have money. At some point, somebody at least needs to recognize that they are horrible with money. I was horrible with money, and the way that I was horrible with money is the way realistically that I'm describing that I see it, that I see in others. You know, love them, hate them, whatever way you might feel like with them. I enjoy Caleb Hammer's content. I do. I enjoy watching it. At this point, it must be a fucking sample size. The amount of videos, the amount of guests he's had on his show. And it is interesting to see people of all walks of financial life, whether it's high income earners, low income earners, how both of those groups of people can get themselves into really fucked financial situations in the belief that they are doing okay with money, when that's just not the case. My God, there was a couple on there that they were making like $200,000 a year. Bitch, they were broke. They're broke. They're more broke than I was. I don't make 200K a year, not even fucking close. By the way, if you like the stream, hit the like and subscribe. If you're really feeling generous, keep watching more, because then, you know, it allows me to get closer to the monetization of YouTube, which I'm nowhere fucking near. We're trying to reach 200 and what are we at now? I don't even know. I've gained a couple of subscribers. I think I'm trying to get to 250. Yeah, 228 right now. At some point we just, it's, and I understand it's, I don't even know if it's a conversation people are having. I don't even know if it's like a thing people care about, because in a lot of ways people just don't feel, I just feel like people don't care. There's so many problems, there's so many bad things, there's so many negativity, there's so many, yeah, I can understand why it feels that way, for sure. I think there would be an appetite for, and there was a little bit. God, what the fuck? Oh, what was his? Oh, hang on. I think his name was Ian. Fuck, I haven't seen any of his videos in a while. I'm almost certain I subscribed to him. Give me a second. I just see all my... As soon as I see his picture, I'll know who. And I watched this stuff for a while. It was good. He was trying to do something similar, but from a little bit of maybe a softer kind of style. I think it was good, but I think the thing is some people legitimately need to be screamed at. As crazy as that might sound. Maybe this shit's gone. Fuck. Damn. Oh, that's fair. I don't think here's the crazy part. I don't think Caleb Hammer's stuff is to teach financial literacy. There might have been at one point, but I would agree that it has since evolved past that. I would agree with that. Nope, it's not the one. Please put me. Slim budget. But fuck. I hate it when shit like that happens and I just can't find. I want to say the guy's name was Ian. Motherfucker. Yeah, I would definitely, I'll give it a watch. But I think so. I think YouTube channels and the way that things discussed online is very much an ecosystem. And I think each, like, you would never, let's use swamps again, okay? Because I like swamps. You would never look at a swamp and say, wow, the alligator's bad because he chomped on, whatever, what the fuck do alligators eat in a swamp? I'll be honest with you. What do alligators eat in a swamp? Okay, we would never be mad at the alligator for eating the raccoon, okay? We would just never be upset about that, or the turtles or the snakes or the birds. That's their job in the ecosystem, okay? But what we would recognize is that an ecosystem filled with nothing but alligators is not good. That's not an ecosystem that's domination. It's probably a dying ecosystem, right? I think in a lot of ways, there was a time that Caleb Hammer's content was very much more, was much less aggressive. It was. If you watch a lot of his younger stuff a couple of years back, it is much less aggressive. It's more from hearing the person out. It's like, hey, you know, why are you doing this? Like, we could do this instead. We could get, you know, there's like these options. There's saving rates. Well, here's how you would invest and things like that. And I would say that the adaptation of that business structure, or the way that he has taken that YouTube channel, you're correct, is much more drama-based, clicky-based, kind of drama-based in a way that hopefully draws people in and gives them at least a like, ha 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 ha, that person's acting stupid like that. Oh, but wait, shit, I do that exact same thing. So if it's stupid that they're doing it, it should be stupid that I'm doing it. That's how it worked for me. Okay, it's how it worked for me. It's how it's worked for a lot of people. However, if you are somebody that is looking to get information on how you should budget, or why budgeting works this way, or why we do certain things, Caleb Hammer's channel would be an awful place to go to. Personally, it really turns me off that he does political stuff on top of his money stuff. It's just one of those things that and maybe people feel the same way about me. I'm sometimes a tad unreceptive when people have a niche that they've fallen into that try to break into another niche that's similar but different. Where it's kind of like, yeah, I get you talk finances and you probably follow a lot of financial news and shit like that, but I'm not really sure where the assumption is where you should talk about politics stuff. So there it turns me off a little bit, and I it would be nice to have more of a channel that is a mixture of both, a mixture of drama, finances with education, for people to come, maybe stay for the drama and then be able to absorb some of the educational things. So yeah, if you've linked it, I'll definitely give it a watch. Yabna. You know what? I'm surprised that I haven't gotten anybody for the discuss the the change my mind part of my stream title. I really am. I thought for sure that would have brought in at least one or two. This is the people's and not the love. This is the people. I mean, the realistic. I mean, it is fucking 11 o'clock on a fucking Tuesday. Is it a whole system? Is a whole goddamn system? Yeah, I do. I need to work with that. I'm just lazy. Oh, was this app thing you were telling me about fucking ages ago? You'd be like, IRI, go do. I remember you telling me about an app or something you were using fucking way back when I was first getting into tracking my money and budgeting and shit like that. And then I remembered, no, I'm no fucking nerd. It's called You Need a Budget. Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. I don't think I've ever... Caleb does the little commercial things in which he calls out other budgeting apps. I don't know if he's ever had that one on it. So, okay. Fascinating. See, I'm still a nerd. I now have 3 years. I think this is my 3rd year of budgeting on pay. Oh, no, 4th year. So I got 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026 of spreadsheet budgeting. So, and that's the thing. I recognize I'm the outlier in that. I recognize I'm very much the outlier in that. I'll give people the template when they ask, because I have a shareable template for it. But I would not be shocked if most people couldn't stick to it. Because it's a lot. It's sitting down almost every other day, looking at your accounts, putting your numbers in and doing stuff. I can understand that people, it feels overwhelming, especially to start. But it's like any good habit. Once you start running, you feel better. It feels good. You notice the differences. You keep doing it. It kind of compounds, step after step after step after step after step type deal. But yeah. All right. Well, I think that works good for I think that was a good kind of chat. And Gemini didn't really give me what I was looking for when I'm talking, But it was an interesting side piece. Just curious what to say when it's, yeah, that's not what it really meant with respect for the dollar. It was more about how people spend and the choices they made surrounding what they do with that dollar. Nah, still didn't get it. Nah, this is, you know what I mean? When AI is cool, it can be like, it's really cool for some educational things, but some more esoteric topics, it's not really getting the oh, we should watch that one too. The explanation and the, you know, the insight that somebody that actually studies it and thinks about it and conceptualizes, and you know the abstract framing that exists as part of our thinking tends to get. It's just not the same. Just not the same. Okay, we'll do your video first. What is this? Because it's 23 minutes, so it's going to take us 6 hours to get through. And then my video is 33 minutes, so that'll take us 7 hours to get through. They're the same. Are they the same amount of time? 23 minutes, 49 seconds, 23 minutes, 4 seconds. Ooh, yours is longer. Yours is longer. We're gonna be here forever. I'm just gonna bum around in Pal World. I'll only do it because I'm a fucking content thief. I'm just a dirty fucking content thief. And we'll leave my camera on today. You can all see my pretty mug. Speaking of, I should go be. Nah, we're okay for now. At some point I'll have to pee. And then I'll have to get another tea. Trying to up my vitamin D intake. I've been a little bit of a basement dweller a little bit too long here now. And it's starting to, I think that was part of the source of my headaches, was just not enough vitamin D. Not enough vitamin D's nuts. All right, ready for the belly? Yeah. See those titties wiggling? I didn't even have to get up either. I have a fucking controller right here. You didn't even have to see my, you're welcome. You're welcome, everybody watching. Okay, you're welcome. That's my one titty jiggle for the year. My middies are on full display. Could you imagine? Could you imagine I get banned for getting up my middies slip a little bit, and they're like, oh, that's a fucking titty. That's a titty on stream. No titties on stream. No middies. No middies, no titties. It's a little bit of a belly. I got a little bit of a belly, you know. I got a belly. I'm a thick. Where are we going? I'm a thick individual. See? I'm a thick individual. I'm a thick man. Got a little bit of a guttum. A little bit of a guttum. You know? It's counteracted by my fucking swollenness. Ooh. Oh, that was a hard flex. Shouldn't have done that. That hurt. Oh, getting old. Oh. Getting old. Oh, flexed a little too hard. Arnold Schwarzeneggered it. I nearly threw on my back. Can you imagine going to the doctor's office? You're just like, you're in that like kind of like pose like this, and they're like, what's wrong with you? And be like, well, showing off for camera a little too hard. You're welcome. Slip him a card with my with my stream title on it for them. There you go. You're welcome.
That's insane! You're beyond lost?
Sorry.
You need a therapist and a mother that loves you.
Joke's on you, sir. I only got
we
one of
need
those.
to talk about Caleb Hammer.
Okay.
Because his videos exemplify a way of thinking about money and ourselves that we have normalized for some reason, and we desperately need to change. If you're unfamiliar with Caleb, he hosts a show called Financial Audit. After 2 years on YouTube, it has over 2 million subscribers, and his business brings in 6 figures a month. Especially on YouTube, that amount of success in that short of a time, pretty impressive. The basic format of the show is Caleb sitting down with 1 or 2 people to look at their bank balances, their debts, and specifically their day-to-day spending in their bank statements. They try to talk about why they made these decisions, Caleb offers advice, he tries to make them a budget, and generally gives them an assessment of how they're doing financially. It's a kind of spiritual successor to The Ramsey Show, where you've got people bringing their real-life financial issues and someone giving them tough love, no nonsense.
I'll watch a David Ramsey every now and then. Not as often as I used to. It's not as good. Since he was a Trump supporter, it fucking turns me off a little bit from listening to him. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little biased at times. And B, there are times where he gets a little too Christian-y. and it's like, did you really need to bring Jesus into this? I'm like, I don't know. So that kind of turns me off too. But there was a time I enjoyed listening to David Ramsey as well.
But there's this kind of narrative around Caleb's show that while it might have started that way, it has since morphed into something much more mean-spirited and much closer to reality TV entertainment than any kind of personal finance education. And I want to dig into that narrative because I think it sheds some light on where our personal finance advice actually comes from, and because I think this notion that tough love is an effective method for changing people is silly and kooky and goofy and wrong. So let's talk about it.
Okay,
I'm Ben,
I'm in.
and
I'm interested.
this
I'm in.
is sketchy.
Okay, my... Oh, fuck, I didn't leave with any ammo? God damn it. I would agree, to some degree, that tough love isn't always effective at changing people's mind on the aggregate. However, I will argue that there are certain people that only learn from that kind of tough love, aggressive kind of style that Caleb Hammer engages with. So I am kind of curious to see what it is that this guy, because I would hope that if he's being reasonable and grounded, my hope was that there would be some agreement that it can be a good thing at times. Like, some people do respond well to that kind of tough love mentality.
Advice. We're just gonna leave that one in. First off, a couple disclaimers up front, because I really want this to be a good faith discussion of the issues I see in Caleb's content.
Okay.
First, I work for YNAB. We make an app that is designed to help you with your money.
Competition.
And Caleb's business also makes an app designed to help you with your money. So we are technically competitors. Yep. I am not making this video because I'm trying to win back people from Caleb's app or because I'm trying to scare you away from downloading
that's
his
what
app.
somebody
Personally,
like that would say.
I would hope that the
Classic.
reason you would choose YNAB over Caleb's app is because you genuinely think YNAB is the better tool for spending, saving, and living joyfully. Not because I tricked you into not downloading a superior app. But I just wanted to flag that dynamic up front for the sake of transparency. Second,
Okay.
I am not trying to smear Caleb. I'm not trying to cancel him. If you watch his show and you keep watching it after this video, that's fine. I don't know him. I can't speak to his character or his intentions. I'm not going to comment on controversies he may or may not be involved in. If anything, I'm more using Caleb as a case study for how a lot of us think about money in our own lives. But
Okay.
I don't think I could make this video in good conscience without flagging up the fact that there are some trends on Caleb's channel that I personally find troubling. Throughout the course of this show's history, the way he presents his guests in his thumbnails and his titles has become increasingly degrading and, I would argue, dehumanizing. I think the way that he regularly mocks...
I'll be honest with you. I have no problem with the thumbnails. I know people... I guess like if you have a problem with the clickbait titles as a whole, like you think all clickbait titles are in general is bad, I would agree that you would probably take issues with the titles. I don't know how I feel about clickbait, I'll be honest with you. There is part of me that thinks clickbait is funny, and it actually leads to sometimes people misunderstanding, and you can tell how far somebody is engaged with the media, depending on how... kind of like what the response is. Like it... fuck. Because I would say, like, what he just said kind of gives me the take of, like, oh, you haven't really watched the things. But... my guess would be that his take is we shouldn't really engage in clickbait titles. Like, if that's his stance, then I could understand his stance on this one.
And gets into the personal lives of his guests to be highly inappropriate. And I really don't like the fact that his show regularly leans into highly damaging, problematic stereotypes around women. Now, Caleb says that all of his guests are made well aware of how they might be portrayed before they start filming.
But they are asked permission. I probably 2 times for the thumbnail and title before they come on. They're asked permission in the green room. Then they watch the onboarding video going over the thumbnail processes. They are given literally every opportunity in the world.
And that's definitely better than the alternative. But if the result is still leaning into damaging stereotypes, particularly around women, and
but it's not. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this video is not starting off well because you're... how do I explain this in a way that I feel like I've communicated myself well? It's only leaning into a stereotype if you think, like, what makes edgy humor funny? At the end of the day, what makes edgy humor funny from not funny is whether the person legitimately believes it or not. Like, if you... Yeah, honestly, that's it. It's just simple as. Okay? That if you... When you tell a joke, if you are somebody who doesn't believe what the underlying joke is making fun of, the joke is funny. It's funny. People can engage with it. It's not destructive. It's not like, oh, that's really in bad taste. Like, that's poor. But the problem is if you have somebody who... Like, if you made a joke about black stereotypes, but you don't actually believe those stereotypes exist, that is better than making a joke about black stereotypes and you actually believing that those black stereotypes exist. And if you don't understand what I just said and the difference between those two things, I don't think there's a way that I could explain myself any other way that would get my point across. At least not that I've come across, or not that I would understand. Yeah, I can understand why it feels that way. But then I would turn around, and here's the thing, I would turn around and it's like, oh, and so then we think every man is a gooner, right? We just assume that every man that's going on any like, I just don't think the same assumption or the same outrage would be there for the gooner titles where the man is like, oh, man buying OnlyFans, or incel gambles away his fucking money, right? Nobody would be like, oh, look at the fucking man, he's just gambling his fucking money. Caleb's just playing into the modern day stereotypes that men are nothing but gamblers and gooner degenerates. Like, it's not this, and that's where that's where you lose me. When it comes to stuff like that, is if the same outrage exists for both styles of thumbnails, I would agree. But when your outrage sits on one side, my proclivity to believe that the outrage or that the actual upsetness about the thumbnails existing starts to feel a little more illegitimate. And hopefully I've explained myself that way. But it's not a real assessment. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, is the joke is hidden behind it's a joke title. And what makes it funny is the assumption that he doesn't actually believe the things that he's putting there. Okay.
Treating your guests in a borderline abusive way? That's gross. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go back to the beginning of Caleb's channel. Like a lot of YouTubers, it seems like Caleb didn't exactly know what his show was going to be when he started. So his first video isn't a financial audit at all.
Is it abusive to roleplay? Oh, is it abusive to roleplay with your spouse on certain things? Like, if you and your spouse agree to, this is why it just bad taste in my mouth already. If you and I agree to a certain level of roleplay in which I'm going to give you advice in a certain style, and you know that style is coming, and you understand that style, and you've consented to that style, I don't think you can call it abuse. I think that's a gross misuse of that word, and actually underscores legitimate abuse that others might actually experience. I don't know. This video's already turned me off a little bit.
A rental property. And in it, he says this.
Now, I'm not here to put myself on a high pedestal and tell other people what they should and should not do with their own money, but instead I want to go over my own personal experiences, and if people can learn from that, that's just a win-win.
And it is actually disorienting to see that statement at the beginning of this channel, when the channel currently...
What do you mean it's not a men and women thing? Ice beans. What do you mean by that statement? Wait, you don't think you can role play with your significant other that others would call abuse outside that role play? Why would you call, like, if you have somebody who's like into getting role played, getting smacked around, BDSM stuff, would you call that the same abuse? Would you call that abusive? I wouldn't. That'd be insane. That'd be absolutely insane. We would recognize that those people are role playing, and then we would recognize that the people that aren't consenting to BDSM and getting beat are the actual abuse victims. We should be able to, once again, differentiate, compartmentalize, whatever you want to call it, the difference between those two things. Is one is actual abuse and the other one is a role play of a form. You could argue a role play of a form of abuse that both parties have consented to, but it is vastly different. These are chasms. There's a great divide between those two things. Oh, that's fair. But no, it's just I don't agree with his assessment so
Looks like
far.
this.
You didn't stop spending. You did not stop spending, like you said, or else they would not be maxed out if you've consolidated just a couple months ago.
Well,
Lies!
I tried. I'd probably pay.
No!
I
You did not! Try!
So what happened? Well, let's look at Caleb's first financial audit.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
begins the audit by saying this.
So you came up from San Antonio to Austin so that we could do this, kind of break down your finances
Hang on,
and just have a...
really confused. What was the point of that last? What was the point of that last spray bottle one?
The audit.
I tried.
Solid. That's just a win-win.
And it is actually disorienting to see that statement at the beginning of this channel when the channel currently looks
okay.
like this.
You didn't stop spending. You did not stop spending, like you said, or else they would not be maxed out if you've consolidated just a couple months ago.
Well,
Lies!
I tried. I'd probably pay.
No!
I
You did not! Try!
So what happened? Well, let's look at Caleb's first financial audit. He begins the audit by saying this.
Okay.
So you came up from San Antonio to Austin so that we could do this, kind of break down your finances and just have a open and frank and educational conversation around that.
And honestly, this is a really nice conversation. There's a lot of back and forth. Caleb allows his guests to explain themselves and speak and give further context. He asks good questions to help people reflect on their decisions.
What happens? You had to get 2 new tires. So, like, what is this next month going to look like?
Also, how old is this video? I'm just curious.
This whole video is really just a respectful discussion that allows this person to reflect on their spending
months, okay.
decisions. And I am here for this type of show. I think this is great, especially if you haven't been looking at your money with a ton of intentionality.
Well,
It can
and that would make sense because that kind of conversation appeals to you. You like the calm, you like the cool, you like the collected. You're not. I can already tell from your channel you're not into the drama kind of style content that reaches the millions of viewers, right? Like, and this, and you, like, I'm not trying to be a dick by this comparison, like I'm really not, but a large part and a large difference would be how old's this YouTube channel? Will it tell me? 2008, and you're not at 250,000 subscribers. Like, I'm not knocking. 169K is still amazing. It's still a fucking massive channel. You still have wide reach. Like, we're talking almost 100K on your videos. Like, when was your last video? Let's see. 4 days ago. Okay, 1.2, 2.6, right? 3.7. They're not horrible views. You're still doing good. That's still an amazing amount of views. But when we compare it to somebody like let's look at just from 2 days ago. Let's just look from 2 days ago. 494K views. The unfortunate reality, and this is like, cause okay, I'm gonna flick my screens. Okay, I'm gonna flick my beans here for a second. When we transition over, right? Let's look at some of these. We have This Is Insane. No fucking way. Can we just go? Where's this channel? Let's just go click on this thing here. Like this, like if we look at the age, we look 2020. So we're talking orders of magnitude difference between time started and amount of subscribers. Right? We got Bro Run, we got Class through Obesity, She Can't Find Out, No Fucking Way, Klarna, This Is Insane, Divorce Incoming, Thousands for Busty Latinas, No Fucking Way, No Fucking Way, No Fucking Way, This Dead Is Gay, like Evil, like the titles are, yeah, but this is what I'm saying. I agree. Oh, this isn't the guy's channel? What's his channel? because I'd be curious to see what his channel is, because if they're comparable, right? If the amount of subscribers and stuff is comparable, yeah, but your goals change because you recognize, like, what, okay, here's a curious question. If Caleb Hammer would have stayed on his goal of continuing to have the conversations like he was having, but his channel didn't grow past 100,000 subscribers, would that be better or worse than changing your goal and having a wider reach? Oh, well then, okay. I think this is something that I've fucked myself with a few times, is coming up with a goal or a way you want to be online, engaging with it, realize it's not working, and then the struggle of recognizing that you need to change and shift content is one that destroys people's fucking brains. It just is. I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is about it that fucking throws people, but it is. And once again, it's okay if you're not into the drama slop. That's okay. But I guess like in some ways there's a school of thought that you should try to maximize the amount of reach and resources that you can accumulate so that you can use it for good. And in a lot of ways, the leaning into the drama style content that, and away from the maybe original style was, no, he's allowed to criticize. That's not what I'm saying. You can, you're absolutely missing me for what I'm saying, and I don't know how to communicate it differently. What I'm saying is there is more reach and drama than there's not. So if the goal is to get reach, to get people thinking and talking about their finances, I would say it's more good. I'd even say in some ways, depending on what school of thought you're sitting with, it's more morally good to engage with, yeah, but his original goal, maybe it's changed. Maybe he realized his original goal wasn't achievable the way he was doing it. Right? Because if the goal, because if the goal was,
He says this.
Now, I'm not here to put myself on a high pedestal and tell other people what they should and should not do with their own money, but instead.
But that's exactly it. And what the frustration is why didn't you stay with the politeness? Because that's realistically, at the end of the day, I can already tell the 4 minutes that we're into this, 5 minutes that we're into this, his critique isn't that Caleb isn't effective at getting people to discuss. That he is. This guy is making that judgment call. Is that his judgment at the end of the day, and I'd be surprised if this wasn't the case at the end of the video, is this guy is saying that Caleb Hammer would have been better off sticking with his original style of video because it would have been more effective than what is Caleb going against here?
Personal experiences, and if people can learn from that, that's just a win-win.
And it is
Because he still is. No, I'm not treating it as bad faith. I'm not treating it as bad faith. I'm saying if anything, I'm saying his critique is short-sighted. Yeah, but what has Caleb done that's going across his own words? Because his own words that the guy used in that sentence, we can type it out word for word.
a rental property. And
His words are, he doesn't want to put himself on a high pedestal. He wants to have conversations that are in line with his own experiences. And hopefully people will learn something out of that.
Now, I'm not here to put myself on a high pedestal.
So he's not here to put himself on a high pedestal and tell other people what they should or should not do.
And should not do with their own money. Instead, I want to go over my own personal experiences, and if people can learn from that, that's.
Okay, so now what the critique is that he's gone against his own goal. I understand, but what you're saying now is the critique is, instead of doing just his own personal experiences, now he's moved into telling people what to do with their money, right? That's his goal shifting. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. In what way has he put himself on a higher pedestal? Just in the way he's more confident and aggressive in the way he talks with people? I mean, your ego is absolutely going to grow a little bit. I would agree. His ego has grown over the years, for sure. I guess I don't understand. I don't understand why the critique needs to be made at all. I don't understand what the goal of the critique is. Because what we're saying is we should hold, because realistically at the end of the day, what you're saying is we should hold people autistically to the goals they set out for themselves, and if they seek to change it, they must be a grifter. Yeah, I think that's crazy. I think that's crazy. I think that's way too autistic. Yeah, but he is it's okay. If and I wouldn't even necessarily say that's putting yourself on a pedestal. Putting yourself, if you want to critique him for any part of putting himself on a pedestal, it is not the way he discusses with people. If anything, I would say that the number one way, what I would prefer is for people to be effective and get their message out. And if they have to shift their goals and see that things and change the way he, it's not, once again, it's not just that he prefers one style, his audience prefers one style. So once again, we could change the critique from he shifted to his goals into, because the way that he's trying to make his point is not the way that he should make his point. Realistically, if he wanted to make his point with putting himself on a pedestal, I would say one of the clearest examples of that is the way that he discusses his budgeting app, that he has made it so that it seems like he is doing more of the work than he is a financier. Because I would say that one of my biggest problems is one of the ads I hear is private equity is making an app. Well, he is private equity because he is using his own money to fund and build an app that is, private money building an app that is a form of private equity. So that would be a better example than being like, oh, he's aggressive with people, therefore it's going against his goals and putting himself on a pedestal. I don't think those two things link up. I will, but realistically, at the end of the day, his style is effective at getting people engaged. He has 3.1 million subscribers. How is that not effective? And that's what I was trying to get, is if we're talking what is more effective at getting your message out and getting people to think about their finances, is it drama style or is it content like I and this guy is doing? It's not that I'm not giving it a chance. I'm critiquing the things as we move down the line. I can understand how it might be frustrating to you, but I'm personally not frustrated with the thing. I just don't think that the foundation upon which he's setting the critiques to be made, I don't think are solid. But how would we quantify that? If once again it's an ecosystem, if the first part of the ecosystem is to get people thinking and looking and seeing the other stupid mistakes that people are making with their money and relating that to themselves, wouldn't Caleb Hammer's channel be incredibly effective about that? You can do both. Here's the crazy part, is it's not a one size fits all. Financial literacy isn't a one size fits all. Sometimes the first step that you require of somebody, especially around finances, is a wake-up call. You do. Because a lot of people, once again, we just talked about it, how people think they're better with money than they are. Right? And one of those things is laughing kind of at people sometimes, being like, haha, look at this stupid thing this person is doing. And then realizing, oh shit, I'm doing that same stupid thing. I'm doing that. Because there was a lot of times before I really started tracking and budgeting, I would watch these and be like, wow, that's really stupid what they're doing with their money. And then I go eat out. And then I go do stupid shit. And then it finally was like, oh, it kind of clicked in. It was like, oh shit, I'm kind of doing the same stupid stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I'm literally not. I actually think there's a good case for all of the points he's trying to make. I just don't think he's settling on the things that would demonstrate those things. Also, yes, in some ways, you can feel like I'm deliberately trying to debunk him. That's okay. I totally understand that. But I'm also not always going to. Here's the thing: is I can agree with the central point without agreeing with the points that you're using to make that central point. If we look at it like a Webflow kind of chart, and that's okay. If you need to step out, I totally get it. But I think at the end of the day, I think he's coming from it at the wrong direction. I think there's better ways to come at it.
I pay financial.
To just have
This explain themselves decisions.
like
A lot of walking.
This whole video is really just a respectful discussion that allows this person to reflect on their spending decisions. And I am here for this type of show. I think this is great, especially if you haven't been looking at your money with a ton of intentionality. It can be really powerful to actually look at how you've been spending and have someone ask you questions that prompt you to ask, why did I do that? The comment section for this video is really interesting because a lot of it is people who are going back to the earlier episodes to watch. And a lot of them point out how much calmer and more respectful this interaction is.
For sure.
But interestingly, a lot of people chalk that up to how intelligent and respectful the guest is. But that leaves out the fact that Caleb's team picks who comes onto the show, and Caleb's reaction to things said in these earlier episodes, he's going to have very different reactions to in later episodes.
Does this make sense in your head? 13 overdraft fees.
Yes.
You're literally paying the bank.
Now, a big thing I would be curious to see regarding the civil versus maybe the more aggressive conversations is I'd be curious to see the stats of people that actually change their money, because that would be a big thing. Now, it could be that you come on, you're like, why are you spending this? What are you doing? And people are like, oh yeah, it's kind of bad. Like I shouldn't really be doing this. But then they don't go home and change anything because there's no hard line aggressive thing with it. Or it could be the fact that in these cordial conversations, people feel a lot more respected and they're more willing to do the nice things for themselves, right? And in the fiery conversations, they feel a lot more disrespected and they're kind of more of like, fuck you, I'm not going to do what you want. But I'd be curious to see the stats on both of those.
That's true.
Because I have seen conversations, one in particular, that I will bring up. Where is it? It is, and I just saw it as we were looking through things. This one in particular. The financial audit's final boss. These guys were fucked. Absolutely fucked. I think it was something like $100,000 in fucking debt. Plus, if just credit card debt. Like not house debt, just credit card debt. Like they were fucked. And their follow-up was unbelievably fucking positive. Unbelievable. Like they had paid out almost all the fucking debt. They were budgeting. They were doing amazingly well. Their financial audit was one where he was fairly aggressive with them. And it worked out good. And this is what I mean is like, we can look at it and we go, wow, the thumbnails are really crazy. Like I can't believe that he's like treating guests like this. But what we should care about, and I agree at the end of the day, is what does the final product look like? Are people engaging with it properly? Is it getting people to, go seek out better information? Because it could be that, yes, Caleb Hammer's channel has shifted from the educational kind of style it was before to a more drama-based thing. But that might be where he's become in the ecosystem, and there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that. And I think it's okay to recognize that shit sometimes happens. Without saying what the person is doing now is bad or going against what their last goals were.
2 in a row! Why? Why do you accept that? What is this?
The change in guests and Caleb's behavior are
Wait,
both
those two?
things
I've
that
got
can
those two?
ultimately be traced back to Caleb himself. But a lot of these earlier episodes are just like this one. They are frank discussions of finances with a little bit of saltiness here and there. So where do we start to see a real shift? I would point to
Probably
this video.
year and a half
It's
ago?
the first one on Caleb's channel to get over 1 million views. I think this video is where we start to see the true Caleb Hammer financial audit formula emerge. This guy is a grad student studying scenic design, something that he's clearly very passionate about, but probably isn't going to get him a high-paying job in the future. He has pretty alarming amounts of debt, and at various points in this video, Caleb gets really worked up. You can see this exact same formula on display in Caleb's most successful video. Not only are the thumbnail and title literally identical, but everything in this formula gets turned up to 11. Rather than just a theater student who doesn't have a great grasp of his finances, we have a woman who is a spiritual life coach who is actually making a good amount of money, but has wound up in absolutely absurd, seemingly unnecessary amounts of debt. And Caleb, understandably, gets absolutely exasperated throughout this episode. All of that together leads to this really interesting moment.
Are you in a place where you should be giving that kind of advice to people if you can't even stop yourself from something as basic as spending?
Well, I don't give people financial advice.
I know, not financial advice, but life advice. If you can't even take control of your own misbehavior, should you be giving advice to other people?
Is that a valid question? Sure.
Yeah.
But it also underscores one of the resonating themes throughout this show. One of the core tenets of financial audit seems to be that the reason people make bad financial decisions is because they are dumb, childish, or just bad people. And Caleb might not agree with that characterization, but I would argue that...
Well, this is just the falling for the thumbnails, because like some people, the one that he used as a childish example, if you watched that episode, that person was very childish. They were in a lot of ways. It was, I don't want to, my parents are going to do it for me. I don't have to do these things. Why should I have to go do this stuff when I don't want to? Like, there was the guy that was evil. Fuck me. I'd have to go back and think about that one. Oh, fuck, where's the video? I'd have to go. Yeah, the immature child one. That was, he was 41 years old, was still living, was mooching, was taking money from, I believe, his retired fucking parents. I think his dad went back to work because he was taking money from them. Like, it was not a good thing. It was being childish. Let's go to latest. No, not popular. Oldest. Let's go oldest. I'm gonna look through here. Gonna find it. Which is funny because actually, if you look at some of his other ones, there was one, oh fuck, where the fuck did it just go? Where he's like, he's done for, had 1.2, but another one was like worst ever. Fuck, he didn't use the she's done for quite a few videos after. What was that one guy, the evil one? God, I want to say he was spending money on fucking cars or motorcycles instead of paying shit for his kids. But once again, it's the falling for the thumbnail shit again. It's just not hitting. He's just not hitting the mark that I think he wanted to hit with this video.
His show
That's
is
just
making
all.
that point constantly. Just look at how often these words come up in the titles of his videos versus how often these words come up. And you can see this mentality reflected back to Caleb in his comment sections. Whether or not he intends this message, it is what a lot of his audience is hearing. It seems like in the beginning, Caleb is kind of resistant to this idea. In this video, he leaves a pin.
Which is funny because I think it's fine to recognize that you're using hard love and shame to try and get people to switch. I'm okay with that. I think the thing that bothers me that I wish that people like Caleb would do is I could just own it. Be like, yeah, I'm using this as a method for whatever reason that you might think, but at least be honest with your shit. I have no problem with that. Which, once again, if you want to make the critique that he's not always honest about his goals or shit like that, I would agree with that.
Comment kind of in response to people who are dunking.
Actually, the one thing that really upset me recently that he did that I didn't particularly like on one of the videos that I just watched of him, it had it where it was basically a loan service that he had started, and he had joked for a long time that if he didn't have morals, that's what he would kind of get into. And the fact that he would start that, it is a turnoff. It goes, okay, now you're starting to definitely lean into the world of like now betraying principles, not just goals, but principles you have set forth.
How do you get out of a hole when he has that mindset?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's my money.
Not all.
Yeah, that was the thing, is this guy didn't care the pressure that he was putting on his wife from his spending. He just totally did not give a fuck. He knew it was bad. He knew it was like he was spending money that he didn't have. And I mean, what do we call evil other than intentionally doing things to harm people while knowing and not caring? Right? Like I don't know, man.
This guy saying, hey, listen, I've actually gotten to know him. He's kind of a cool guy.
Oops.
But in later videos, the pinned comments or the descriptions look more like this. It's leaning into the judgment, not pushing back against it. Now, why are videos like this so successful? I think there's a few reasons. One, if we're honest, it makes us feel a lot better about ourselves.
Okay, at least he's being honest here.
I think
Yep.
just listening to these people talk is fascinating.
Yep.
Why'd you not work for another couple months and save up as much money as possible?
Well, when you got a fire in your pants, you just gotta get up and get rid of it. How much harder would it be to put your dream off forever and then die without ever having done
Yeah,
it?
2 months is not forever.
2 months becomes 6 months, becomes a year,
Or 2 months
years.
becomes 2 months if you actually have a plan. Okay, but two months was an example. 6 months is nothing when it comes to a lifetime.
But when you're not doing something that truly makes you happy or what you want, is it worth it?
Like, I just kept watching because I wanted to see how far down the rabbit hole we were going to go. But third, and I think this is really crucial, there is something cathartic about watching these videos. A lot of people attribute the success of Caleb Hammer to kind of Schadenfreude. It's just kind of fascinating to watch train wrecks, and I think that's true.
It is.
But I think there's also something to this idea of telling people off. We all have people in our lives who make questionable decisions that upset us, but we don't really feel like we're in a place to confront them. We don't feel like we're the right person to call them out on their nonsense. And there is something cathartic about watching a seemingly delusional or bad or childish person get called out in a really stark way.
Which is what
But
I
here's
said.
the thing,
Yep.
if that is the formula to making a good financial audit video, then that means two things. One, you need a guest who makes us all go, I want them to get called out. And you need Caleb to have a pretty profound confrontation with that person, which leads to this cycle of wilder and wilder guests being brought onto the show, and Caleb becoming increasingly hostile right out the gate.
That would I
This
see.
core.
This is where, yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the fucking head, and this is an actual critique that I can 1 bajillion% with, and it laid a very good solid foundation for the critique. It is if you're going to keep ramping shit up time after time after time after time, you are eventually going to hit a ceiling of craziness. And one of two things are going to happen. Your channel is going to stagnate, or you're just going to accept that there is no more crazy, and then you're going to kind of tone it down and find an equilibrium within it. Now, if the critique is this style of ramping up and ramping up is leading to less conversations about finance and more conversations about people's personal lives and maybe what leads up to the bad financial decisions in maybe what is a less than palatable way for some people, I would agree with that. That would be a fair critique. I'd be okay with that critique.
Formula that financial audit is built on.
I would say that the critique is laying on a solid foundation of evidence that the ramping up over and over again is leading to the more unhingedness, which is leading to, these kind of things overall. I'm amenable to that.
Leads to
that
content
criticism.
that is less and less actually educational, and more just an episode of Jerry Springer. Why does Caleb stick to that formula then? Again, I'm not Caleb, but one.
But here's the problem I have is if your critique is Caleb Hammer's content has gone from educational to not educational, why wouldn't you use a clip of him saying he wants his channel to be educational? Because in a lot of ways, the critique that should have been made with the clip that he used is that Caleb Hammer has gone on to now tell people what they should be doing with their money. And that you could argue that is something that if he wanted to stay true to himself, he shouldn't be doing. Because if the point wasn't to tell, but the point, I think that was stupid of Caleb to begin with, because if you're making a financial audit channel in which you're going to have people come on and discuss their money and you give advice, you're necessarily going to be telling people what to do with their money. But my problem is he hasn't established, there haven't been grounds establishing that Caleb Hammer's channel was originally set out to be an education-based thing as much as it was set out to be a channel in which finances and life circumstances leading to those finances, you know, it was created for that reason. And I think that is where the guy is missing the mark, is he is trying to argue that Caleb's Hammers channel was originally made as an educational style setting. And what I'm arguing is, no, it wasn't set up as that. It was set up as a way to have people come on and discuss their finances and the life situations that led them up to those financial decisions. And that goal hasn't changed. But what has changed is the sloppiness of the more drama-based discussions about people's life and the finance and the ways that that has affected their finances versus the self-reflection aspect that people have engaged with on that channel previously. That, I think, would be a much more solid critique of Caleb Hammer, and using the evidence that he provided would set a very more solid foundation upon that claim to rest upon.
Reason you could imagine is because this video got 90,000.
So Ice Beans, I hope if you're watching, I hope that I've explained myself in ways that make you realize that I'm not debunking this guy. It's like writing an essay when you do a video like this, obviously. And at times you will think that you have written a really compelling argument for something using evidence and facts that you have laid out. Been there. But what you realize that maybe when somebody rereads it back to you or gives you a critique on it, you actually realize that the foundation upon which you wanted to make the point wasn't there. And if you either change the evidence that you wanted to make the critique, or change the critique upon which you were laying out for that thing, it actually would have been better for your essay as a whole. And that is what I think is happening here.
Views, and this video got a whole lot more. On YouTube, the success of your videos largely depends on two things: how many people click on the thumbnail when they see it, and how long they watch the video once they've clicked.
Of course.
And Caleb's grotesque thumbnails and titles paired with this odd...
grotesque is subjective, and I understand that most opinions are going to be subjective, but in this instance, what one person might find grotesque is not something else that somebody else finds offensive. Like, I personally don't find Caleb Hammer's thumbnails offensive because I don't in some ways I think that Caleb would say that that dude is acting in an evil way, but I would be shocked for him to say that that dude is evil. And I think that is where the difference. I think if Caleb was to be like, yeah, I put that thumbnail out because I legitimately believe that that person is fucking evil and what they're doing is evil and the whole thing was fucking evil and there's no redemption, we need to treat that person like they're evil, I would probably be like, okay, it's probably not good that he's doing those thumbnails. Like those clickbait thumbnails that we saw the other day when we were going through the propaganda slop for Alberta, there is no doubt in my mind the person that made that clickbait thumb title legitimately believes what the clickbait thumb title is trying to project. I don't think that's the case for Caleb Hammer.
Combination of like the train wreck effect and catharsis lead to videos that are highly clickable and keep people watching. And I think this is something that we all need to increasingly think about when we go to the internet looking for advice. We are not getting advice from people in a vacuum. There is an ecosystem of content creation that is pressuring creators in certain directions.
Of course.
Creators feel a constant pressure to make thumbnails that people will click on. It is why Graham Stephan's entire YouTube channel looks like it is constantly on fire. And while many people are willing to stick around for deep dives and complex explanations and nuance, many more people are willing to stick around for extreme emotions, drama, or oversimplified solutions to complex problems.
True.
It is a tension that, as a creator myself, I feel all the time. There is a tension between creating something that people are going to want to click on and creating something that will provide real, tangible, lasting value to people. I think it's crucial to remember that a lot of the stuff we see on YouTube...
Ooh, hang on 1 second.
Stick around for deep dives and complex explanations and nuance. Many more people are willing to stick around for extreme emotions, drama, or oversimplified solutions to
that part I
complex
agree
problems.
with.
It is a tension that as a creator myself, I feel all the time. There is a tension between creating something that people are going to want to click on and creating something that will provide real, tangible.
Ooh, and real, tangible, lasting value to people. Oh, I think you could. Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. I don't know if I agree that needs to be a dichotomy. I think actually they could. I think they could work in tangent, because I think you could be somebody who makes unbelievably clickbaity titles, but makes really engaging and really hearty content. I think you could do. I think you could do both of those things. I think it's a fine line. I think it's really fucking hard to do. But I think there is a world where you could do both, because I could make, like, oh, you know what a great example? I'll use myself. My Destiny video that me and Ice Beans just had not too long ago. That's an example of the conversation was super cordial. It was understanding. We both felt like we heard each other, but the title, the thumbnail was very clickbaity. It was very clickbaity. It seemed like Ice Beans was going to be losing her fucking mind, and I was just going to be that swamps were fucking based, right? That is an example of you can do both. You can do things that get people to click on your video, but that doesn't mean that the ingredients in your video need to be just as clickbaity or as fast foody as your title. That's just not. This is. I don't really agree with that.
I think it's crucial to remember that a lot of the stuff we see on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever is optimized to be consumed, not necessarily optimized to be implemented or effective. But that's all mostly a sidebar. The thing I really want to focus on here is the way people defend Caleb's channel. There's this idea that yes, Caleb is maybe too mean, yes, his guests are kind of wild, but ultimately what he's doing is a service. And you can hear an articulation of this back in that 1 million.
I don't know if I'd call it a
You need to
service.
see how dire the situation is.
No
I'm going
more
hard
service than
because
any
you
other channel.
have just been living life like this doesn't matter, and you need to be awoken to the disaster you've gotten yourself in.
There's this narrative that what Caleb is doing is ultimately redemptive. It's kind of a necessary evil. No, it's not the nicest thing in the world, but it's the only thing that's going to actually get through to people.
Oh,
when Caleb talks about the origin,
I don't think that's true at all. I think it speaks to a segment of people, but I think there's definitely other channels that could arise that could do the understanding part a lot better, to do the conversation part a lot better, to do less of the drama, and I think they could still thrive. I don't think they'd be as successful as Caleb Hamler's channel, honestly. I wish I could find that other one, that Ian guy, because he was nowhere near the 3 million. I think he was closer to the 100K mark. I actually wonder if he quit, because I know he was struggling financially. He tried to blow himself up a little too big, spending money on stuff, and I think it put him in unironically in a risky financial situation. But I don't think it's a service no more than like this guy's providing a service, right? Like I wouldn't go that far.
At his show, he says this a lot.
I'm too harsh on the guys?
Yeah.
I had the conversation in the way that I wish someone had with me a decade ago.
The core justification for the way Caleb operates his show is that people need harsh truths and tough love. And first off, just to state the obvious, just because you say something harshly doesn't mean it's true. A lot of people, when they say,
just like when you say something gently doesn't mean it's true. One of the most disgusting things I think about conservatives is they'll fucking hold your hand like a dear old lady while telling you the most fucking disgusting thing on the fucking planet. I don't think either really deal with truth. It's just how maybe people might receive your message.
a tough love, what they're really saying is, I'm justified to say this in a harsh or demeaning way, or to do something that is harsh, because that's the only way to get through to this person. This notion that what people really need is tough love and harsh truth is deeply embedded in our culture for some reason, which is wild.
It's not what Caleb said either. Well, you're kind of butchering the words. What he's saying is he's putting out the content that he's putting out because he wishes that somebody would have had a tough love conversation with him. So what he is doing is he is finding people that are obviously receptive to coming on and getting that tough love conversation, and it seems to resonate with both the people watching and with the people that he's doing it to. Now, you could argue maybe it's not resonating in the ways that we would want it to resonate with people, but that's also not really betraying what he's saying, and is a little bit he's not saying everybody needs to go this way. He's saying I'm literally putting out the message I wish I would have heard. when I, 10 years earlier.
Because there is basically no psychological research that tough love is an effective method at all. The two places you see tough love talked about the
Hang on, there's no research at all that tough love works, or that tough love isn't a way? I don't believe that. Is there research that shows how effective tough love is? Research on tough love shows it's largely ineffective and potentially harmful. So like right there, like you couldn't have taken 2 seconds to Google, because this would actually strengthen once again. It would strengthen once again the point you're trying to make. Okay, research on tough love shows it's largely ineffective. Yeah, the problem with tough love. Cultural influence on how we assess and label both good and bad behaviors. Both abuse of tough love is a singular and damaging concept, but it flourished nonetheless for decades, reinforcing verbal abuse. It succeeded in part because mental anguish is often seen as a weakness, or whining as effective as counted as a character. Often then, the sticks and stones rhyme the human propensity to justify and rationalize bad behavior. I believe that no single cultural idea has contributed more to the flourishing of verbal abuse than the concept of tough love. This is a Peggy Strep tech support. What the fuck? Okay. Tough love, especially rationalizing verbal abuse. Okay, this is more of a, well, we can read it anyways, but this is more of an opinion piece, it seems like. Suspect that rationalizing verbal abuse is a form of discipline or tramping down on the ego or pride of children or parents helped ease it in a way. But make no mistake, what called tough love is just often verbal abuse. Webster devised a term like this: love or affection, concern expressed in a stern, unsettable manner, as though discipline, especially to promote responsible behavior. Of course, the word tough combined with the word love is enough to send a rational mind spinning. But despite that, the concept of improvement or correction linked with improbable combination of shaming and revelation, supposedly inspired by love filtered down to the culture in myriad ways, provide nutrients for subcultures of verbal abuse and abusers in a position of power who often hid in plain sight. In recent years, what is called tough love has been unmasked as abusive in many sports. Okay, this is about sports stuff. More famously, gymnastics and elsewhere, but it had a 50-year and largely unchallenged run. Positive narrations of tough love are not only coursed through communities, but also become a staple for television shows for decades, despite the fact there's no evidence, and never has been, that what is called tough love works in any context, including addiction. The idea of tough love legitimizes verbal abuse as a tool for changing people and their behaviors. It was hailed as a motivational tool. It was not, but how did it ever catch on? Okay. Do we have, I was hoping for like an actual article. Oh my God. Watch me fail. Watch me fail. Is there motorcycles in that one? Verify. Am I, God damn it. Tough love, impact, caring, coaching, in psychologically unsafe environments. In background, the interpersonal dimension of coaching and high-performance sports have been subject to increased scrutiny with limited evidence to guide practice. Similarly, there's increasing practical interest in the concept of psychology, safely often portrayed in an implicitly desired characteristics while sporting environments, but as yet still to receive research intent of high performance. As a first step addressing these deficiencies, and presents two research aims examining the extent to which match groups of international and released professional rugby union players perceive psychological safety to be an abduct feature. I don't think that's what. Method: 7 rugby union players who had made it, and 8 players who had been released from professional contracts, part of a semi-structured interview exploring their developmental experience. Data was subsequently analyzed using a reflective thermic analysis. Both groups of players found each of their talent, development, and high-performance environments to be psychologically unsafe. Furthermore, players perceived coaches who were the most impactful in their development as offering tough love. Players received coaches the most impact in their development. Oh, okay. So they're saying impact in their development, and then they're saying psychologically unsafe. Tough love. This includes a range of harder or softer interpersonal approaches that presented the player with a clear direction. This included a range of harder and softer interpersonal approaches that presented the player with a clear direction, role clarity, and sense of care. It appears that this interpersonal approach helped the player to navigate and benefit from psychologically unsafe high performance. Conclusion: there appear to be a number of balances for a coach in a high performance setting to navigate, and the need for more nuance in applying construction, such as psychological safety. Okay, well, that's also not quite what we're looking for. Trouble with tough love. I don't know this website either, so. She says tough love approach. And my parents. A lot of these are on kids. I mean, if anything, it shows that it's probably not good for kids. So my guess is it probably wouldn't be good for adults. So, although there is definitely studies though, so I don't agree. I don't agree with that. There's no studies showing any. No, where were we? Oh, Yahor. What a
ecosystem of content creation that is pressuring creators in certain directions. Creators feel love. What they're really saying is, I'm justified to say this in a harsh or demeaning way, or to do something that is harsh, because that's the only way to get through to this person. This notion that what people really need is tough love and harsh truth is deeply embedded in our culture for some reason, which is wild, because there is basically no psychological research that tough love is an effective method at all. The two places you see tough love talked about the most are in parenting research and in research on addiction intervention. And in both cases, researchers seem to generally agree that tough love is insufficient at best and radically harmful at worst. Watch these guests in these shows. A lot of them go into what clearly seems like a fight or flight response. And one thing we know about fight or flight is that you really can't learn anything in that mode. Usually what you're trying to do is alleviate the danger as quickly as possible. Psychological research into what's called authoritarian parenting, which tends to use this kind of tough love, harsh truth approach, show that those kids raised that way do tend to behave better, but they also tend to be much worse at emotional regulation and making their own decisions. Two crucially important skills when it comes to managing your money. I'm not a sociologist, so I can't.
Yes, it is, but I'd be careful about trying to link the two, because the difference is you're having one conversation with somebody versus a long-term engagement with that style that is authoritarian. There's once again a vast, when we're talking scales of time, the child one ends up being so much worse, and they end up struggling with those issues because there's patterns that have been established in their life. That's going to be a lot different from, let's say your buddy is fucking a different hooker every night without a condom, and you're like sitting him down and be like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, what do you mean? Why the fuck are you doing this every night? You need to fucking stop this. Like, you're gonna get yourself like really hurt. Like, are you intentionally trying to get an fucking STD? Like, are you stupid? Are you like, what's going on? Like, there'd be a lot of people who'd be like, wow, that's pretty tough. Like, why are you being so aggressive with him? But you would never say, they'd be like, oh, the way my buddy spoke to me that one time is what established a pattern of me being unable to emotionally regulate myself. Like, no, hang on. You're the adult. You've already gotten into this situation due to the emotional, like your inability to regulate your emotions. It's two worlds. Like, you can't have a single conversation and call that a pattern that the person is going to be engaging with that is going to make them not being able to emotionally regulate themselves. Those two things they're vastly different.
Speak definitively to where this idea that tough love is like the way comes from.
Because my guess is that same with the coaching thing. It's not just one time where your coach is like, hey, come on, buck up. Like, you've got this. Like, I know you're a little upset. Like, it's okay. Like, dig deep. You can do this. Like, it's not gonna be a problem. It's okay. Like, you need to get you know, handle your shit. We'll deal with this, and we'll deal with it another time. That's going to be vastly different than your coach every fucking day telling you not to fucking cry, don't show emotions, don't be this way, don't be like, are you stupid? Like, every single day. Those are just two vastly different conversations that people are having.
But I suspect there are two key sources: movies and our own personal experience. We see these kind of tough love moments in movies all the time, where like a mentor just kind of says the harsh truth to the protagonist, or an insufferable character finally has someone call them out on their BS. And those moments in movies feel really good. You're like, yeah, you tell him. But it's pretty obvious why movies do that. It's a lot easier to film that scene than to show a character gradually changing their mindset and behavior over time until something substantial emerges. And that gradual change wouldn't be that entertaining to watch versus someone having a gotcha moment. And two, again, it's cathartic. It feels good. Just because it makes for good TV doesn't mean it's effective in real life. In half of these movies, that person just winds up getting punched in the face. And you shouldn't do that. But I think more powerful is many people have had an experience in their own life where someone spoke the blunt truth to them and it had some kind of transformational effect. And that's totally valid. But I do think we need to draw a distinction between someone told me something I didn't want to hear at the time but I needed to hear, and someone low-key insulted me with something that happened to be true. And if this is what happened to you, I want you to ask yourself, would it have been that different if the person wasn't mean about it? If they had just told you the truth? Another way to think about it is, can you think of any times that a parent or a coach or a peer or a boss or whoever told you something in a really harsh way that happened to be true and you just totally wrote them off because they were being a jerk?
Yeah, I also had ways that people have told me things in really nice ways and I wrote them off because I thought they were wrong. And then I've had ways where people will be like, "Hey, you're being really fucking stupid right now. What you're doing in this situation, being a little insulting." Me being like, "Oh shit, maybe you're right. Maybe I am looking at this the wrong way." Thing is one size doesn't fit all, and in certain situations, things are going to come across in different ways. Like, God damn it, stop doing circles around me. Like, I don't know. I think he's missed the mark a little bit with this
I would
video.
imagine you have a lot more of those moments than you do this magical, transformative, grumpy mentor moment. If you've had a transformative moment,
Yeah, but the thing is you aren't going to stick. The thing is, you're not going to stick with a mentor that is always grumpy, but you're also not going to stick with a mentor that's always kind. It's not all or nothing at things. If you have a parent that's constantly only doing the positive stuff and never getting angry once, like, I'm sorry, that kid is going to have just as many emotional problems at times as the parent that's always getting angry. Like, your kids should see you in a healthy range of emotions. And the thing is like, you're getting, with the show, you are getting one snapshot with these people in that more aggressive kind of moment with them. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I
would be
don't
willing
know.
to guess that for most people, it came from someone that you knew deep down in your guts really, really cared about you. And the weight of that.
Okay, I full-heartedly agree or disagree that you can't get angry while also caring about somebody. Somebody can be angry with you and be a little insulting at times and still care about you. Those things, once again, those things aren't mutually exclusive. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
Is what carried you into some kind of transformation, not the mean words. And whether we're talking about Dave Ramsey or Caleb Hammer or some person on TikTok or whatever, these people, by definition, cannot give you tough love. They do not know you. They do not love you. They are just telling you things that may or may not be true and doing it in a rude way. At the end of episodes of Financial Audit, Caleb tries to make a budget for people.
But I hate to say it, you could make that critique of somebody doing it nicely. I just, because his thing that he just said, hang on, what he just said.
They do these words. And whether we're talking about Dave,
because realistically, I can't give you soft love either. I don't know everything about your life. I can't give you the loving parental advice that you're looking for, or the adequate care in an hour and a half. It just wouldn't be the same. You could make the same critique, whether it's angry or not.
Ramsey or Caleb Hammer or some person on TikTok or whatever, these people, by definition, cannot give you tough love. They do not know you. They do not love you. They are just telling you things that may or may not be true and doing it in a rude way.
They're just telling you things that they don't know you. They don't love you. They are just telling you things that could or could not be true in a really nice way. Functionally, what's the difference between those two topics? Those two different sentences. The only word that changed is rude, but the idea and the underlying sentiment are the exact same.
Audit. Caleb tries to make a budget for people based on their income. And you think this is kind of the moment that is redemptive. This is where all that tough love comes home to roost in a practical plan. But in his recent episodes, he constantly says things like this.
You're underwater by $222.97. What a joke. What a joke.
Well, then
What
it would
a
be cutting
joke.
that.
Or sometimes he doesn't even make the budget. He just tells the person that they're too far gone.
Dude, there's nothing I can do here. I could budget you. There's budget? Sure. But you are lost beyond lost.
In interviews, Caleb says that his team tries to do everything that they can to support these people financially, including things like free sessions of therapy and all kinds of stuff. And that's great. But if this is the beginning of your financial transformation, you're beginning it with fear and shame and anxiety. And none of those are strong motivators for lasting change. I've wondered if I should make a video about Caleb for quite a while now, and the thing that finally sealed the deal for me was reading this comment on one of his videos. After coming across Caleb's channel, I now spend my money as if my bank statements will be audited by Caleb himself. This is someone who, with all the best intentions, claims that what now motivates his spending is imagining what Caleb would say if Caleb saw his spending. It's internalizing this critical, tough love.
What's wrong with that? Why can't you, like... I don't understand what the problem is with that statement. I hope he explains what he sees as an issue, but I don't understand what the issue is. That's fine. If that's how you want to live your life and that's what holds you accountable, okay. Who gives a shit?
Of harsh truth voice that's going to call you out on your BS and beat you up whenever you make a mistake. And I think so many of us have learned to internalize this voice, whether it's from our parents or personal finance stuff that we read or whatever. We think that the way forward to growing up or better transformation of our finances or whatever.
But if that's what allowed that person to feel like they had a way of holding themselves accountable, why are you discounting that? Who the fuck are you to discount that? I mean, that's pretty fucking gross that you're like, oh, the way that you're holding yourself accountable. If you were fucking, you want to talk about a high pedestal, being like, that's the way you hold yourself accountable. Well, let me tell you how that's just internalized fucking misogyny, or let me tell you how that's just internalized racism, or just let me tell you how that's internalized. Like, okay, aren't you happy that they're holding themselves accountable in any way that they saw fit? I'm more happy by that. Now, you might say it's not the greatest coping method. That's fine, but don't belittle a person's. Don't be like, well, if you just had better ways of thinking about things, you would hold yourself accountable in a better way. And it's like, well, maybe, but maybe the person's life experiences, that's how they've found a way to cobble together a coping mechanism for holding themselves accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. And we want to talk about shame. We're getting awfully fucking close there, buddy.
Is to be harsh to ourselves. But core to this whole voice is this idea that if you make bad decisions, it's a signal about your character or your intelligence or your maturity. And inherent to that whole...
Bro, you're reading way too much into that comment. All they're saying is they have a fictional, imaginary thing that they're using to make them almost second guess the expenditures that they're making to be, would this be a smart financial decision based off of other things I've heard somebody talk about, right? Maybe they want to go order DoorDash and they're like, oh fuck, and they think like, oh shit, if the Caleb Hammer saw me order this DoorDash, he'd be really fucking pissed. So you know what, yeah, you're right, maybe instead, even though I am tired, maybe I'll go cook dinner tonight instead of ordering DoorDash. Like, really we're gonna shit on that? I'm not there with you.
Philosophy is this idea that you should motivate yourself by what kind of this strict parental voice would say if you spent this way or if you took out this debt or whatever. And again,
I hate to tell you, even if you have a good parent that was did like more gentle style parenting with the quote unquote tough love, you're still going to be thinking like this. You're still going to be thinking like, oh, well, how would my dad feel if I spent this money? Like, what would he say? What kind of things would he say about my spending? Like, that's still going to happen. That's part of growing up. That's part of experiences. That's part of having mentors. It's having part of people that you look up to. Once again, just absolutely missing the mark.
There is no research to show that is effective. If anything, it seems to be the opposite. Caleb has another channel dedicated to...
No, buddy. Oh, you're missing the tough. You're trying to equate the two. And then going on to further discount this, like, my question to him would be, do do you think this person's not actually holding themselves accountable with their purchases? Like you basically read the person's comment and went, you're a liar, because that doesn't work, because research doesn't show it. You're a fucking liar that you're doing this thing. And then what you're doing is you're shifting it to be like, well, because what it sounds like is you're taking issue with tough love, and then you're taking an issue with the parental instinct of having an accountability person. And then what you're doing is, oh, look at this person using this person as accountability thing. They're just falling for the tough love. It doesn't work. That person is just wrong in the way that they're interpreting their own life. And I just, once again, I just don't agree.
Follow-ups from financial audit. And this is kind of meant to be a proof of concept that while this is kind of a harsh reality check for this people, it ultimately means that they come around. So you would expect this channel to be really positive and happy and full of really good results. Nope, it looks like this. And the really pernicious thing about this way of thinking that I need to beat myself up in order to shut up and grow up is it becomes this vicious cycle. Because if the research shows that this doesn't work or maybe is counterproductive, that means there's a really good chance that it's not going to work for you. And when that
the beating yourself up is a pattern long-term thing. It's okay to realize, be like, man, I am sitting around a lot. What the fuck are you doing? You need to get up and get moving. But if I do that one time, and then the other times that I'm discussing myself is like, wow, I'm really happy you're exercising. I'm happy you're moving today. I'm happy you went for a walk. I'm happy you drank some more water. I'm happy that you danced a little bit today. You got moving. You got the blood flowing. Are you then going to look at that tough love moment and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I not moving more? Is that tough love moment all of a sudden a bad thing? I understand. I would agree. The follow-up channel is a great example of maybe it not working that great, but there could also be a segment of people that just don't want to come back on. They've had their time. They've done their thing. They've gotten their advice. They've moved on. So could be both. I would agree with you to some degree. It is kind of tending towards the, maybe it's not the best thing, but there is also, once again, success stories. So if we're talking about effectiveness, yeah, I could argue you could use that as an example of the effectiveness not being there. But I would say that the counter stories also push, like the counter stories where it is effective, pushes back on your theory that there aren't people out there that benefit from a tough love approach and have used that as jumping off points to better their lives.
That happens, the temptation is to think, oh, I must not be going hard enough on myself. I need to be more strict, more disciplined, more tough. Which means you're either going to do that, which is miserable and probably going to continue to be ineffective, or you're going to give up, which feels terrible. Because you can look at Caleb's follow-up channel and be like, wow, these people just really couldn't hack it to make the change. Or you could say, maybe this method isn't effective to begin with. Maybe internalizing these voices or receiving advice in this way is actually moving us backward, not forward. Okay, I'm starting to sound like Caleb. All right, whew, ha. This is why in a previous video, I argued that one of the most overlooked skills in personal finance is forgiving yourself. Because that is something that is scary to do. If you have been told...
But forgiving yourself does not also mean, it doesn't mean not acknowledging what you've done is bad or wrong. Just FYI.
And you are convinced that the way to improve is to be this tough, strict parent with yourself, then it's actually really scary to let go of that and forgive yourself for past mistakes you've made. Because what if you just devolve into something even worse than you are now? But actual research, like what I talked about in that video, seems to suggest that when we approach our past mistakes with a sense of compassion and forgiveness and a desire to learn from them, we stop avoiding these things that have been causing us shame and stress, and we can move forward in a productive way. When we fill our feed and our heads with these voices that are screaming at us, you're doing this wrong, you need to do it this way, what we're actually doing is we're removing trust from ourselves. We must not be able to do it, so we need someone else to tell us how. But I'm here to tell you, you can do this. That's not to say you might not need help. If you're dealing with certain neurodivergences or patterns of behavior or trauma or whatever, you might very well need professional.
I don't know. That one comes off a little weird for me, for somebody that has made an app for other people. Because what I would say is, why can't just people do an Excel spreadsheet?
What?
Just make your own Excel spreadsheet. Why do people need an app? Why is it that you had to develop an app to get people to look after their finances? Well, because the reality is people need help and people will respond to certain messages certain ways. And not every message is meant for every person. I won't speak to everybody Like there's no world where I create a message where everybody hears it equally. It's just that just doesn't exist. And it's okay to have different folks doing different things. You know, different strokes for different folks as it goes. That's okay. But I think this idea of like, well, you know, you can do this on your own. You just need to, you know, the advice is out there. You just need to go seek it. And it's like, well, yeah, that is true. But if that was also true, we wouldn't have to build apps and do stuff like this for people, because people would just go do it. They just track their money. Books exist. Books existed for a long time.
To move forward in a positive way. But what you don't need to do is constantly remind yourself that you messed up. Something I would encourage you to do is next time you're thinking about money, whether it's looking at your budget or making a spending decision or whatever it is,
what I would say is in a lot of these conversations that Caleb Hammer has, most of them, when they go on, they haven't even acknowledged that they've done something wrong. So how the fuck could you forgive yourself for doing something wrong if you don't even acknowledge what you've done in the first place is wrong? Which I feel like is a good amount of their guests. Surprisingly, even the ones that fucking apply to go on. So you have people that apply to go on, and then they'll fight about the fact that, you know, what they're doing is wrong. Like it was a good video. It gave me some things to think about, like it really did. And I think there was a couple of points where he had a really strong foundation on things. But at the end, I don't really understand what his critique is. Is his critique is the tough love doesn't work, so it shouldn't be done? I could agree with that one. Is his critique that his Caleb Hammer channel has moved to slop? I could agree with that one. His critique seems to be that there aren't people that benefit from the kind of conversations that Caleb gives. I think that's wrong. The idea that all you have to do is just forgive yourself. It's not just as easy as forgiving yourself. In order to forgive yourself, you have to acknowledge that you've done something wrong. Is it good to beat yourself up about past mistakes? No, probably not. And I would agree that ruminating on past mistakes isn't beneficial to everybody and makes shit worse. But you also, if you're gonna have people that don't acknowledge that they're doing anything wrong, how do you address their past mistakes if they're not even willing to acknowledge that things are wrong? But anyways, my head hurts now, probably from staring at the screen. I'm probably gonna go for a walkums with some music. Much love to you, Ice Beans. I hope if you watch this back, you know, I'm not the devil that you saw me as with this video. But peace out, guys. Much love.